the thinking of leadership 20 or 30 years ago was to avoid that progressive stuff because it created change, and change was scary.
Change is always scary.
People were happy. People were happy with what they had.
Josh Pardue, welcome back.
Thank you, Garrett. Appreciate you having me.
Third time's the charm.
That's what they say.
That's what they say. We got a lot of exciting things to talk about today, but we really want to talk about Ybor. We talk about Ybor all the time on the show, but there's growth, as we all know, happening in the area, and we want to try to decipher the short term. I think we've discussed long-term vision many times, you and I, but also on other episodes.
Yeah.
And what's to come and these renderings, and there's a lot of exciting things. But what about the next few years and some of the activation on 7th and in the other areas of Ybor City? And so you, sir, have made a real dedication to Ybor. I think you've been on the show before and told your story, but you've been active in Ybor for going on, 25 years now?
Yeah, that's right, over 20.
And you've made recently some serious commitments. You've bought businesses, you've bought buildings, correct? I mean, you're going all in on being a part of this growth trajectory of this district.
Yeah, it started when I moved to Tampa and I was studying finance, and then fell in love with Ybor right away. So this is the most unique area, the bricks, the wrought iron, that culture. And then knowing then that was a commitment, but now being able to 20 years later make a further impact on it. And you look at some of the other discussions we've had about the future and the growth. What's also exciting is how do you protect and honor and focus on the institutions that have been there for some time. And then, and I'm excited to talk to you about some of the new institutions, if you will, that are going to be coming to Ybor and creating these next chapters.
Last time you were on the show, I asked you how those businesses that are currently there can be successful and who will survive, right? The just growth. I mean, anytime a particular area has a lot of growth, it's going to create challenges for the existing.
Yep.
And you basically said that the strongest will survive in terms of quality. If you're a restaurant, have the utmost quality in your food and your service. If you're a tattoo place, be the best tattoo place.
Yep.
And so your recent acquisition, the Bricks building, you've also purchased the business.
Yep.
And we were talking offline, and you said you're not really changing it. You're basically just increasing the quality, and whatever aspect that may be, wherever you and your team identifies.
Yep.
Increasing the quality of the food, building a fresh new website, maybe implementing technology that makes it easier for customers and the business.
All the things you can do to drive.
All those things. And that's in line with what you told me on the last show. On the last show, you talked about those businesses. And here you are purchasing an established business. How long has this place been here?
Over 15 years.
Over 15 years.
And I remember living in Ybor, and I just got kind of out of hospitality. I was into commercial real estate, but I remember going to the grand opening and the first events here and some of these other properties in the area. And when you had the skateboard culture, Skate Park of Tampa, the seller Brian, who still wants to stay involved in next chapters. When you looked at that back then, I could tell this was a really hip, cool thing for Tampa and for Ybor, and it felt like a new institution. And so as we're sitting here kind of talking about the many institutions that Ybor has now, you look at Columbia Restaurant, obviously self-sufficient, but you go down the line, you got Berdini, La Segunda, even upstairs Samurai Blue, the Castle, the Bricks. I joke about these institutions, and as we're filling in the new, slow down and let's make sure we also protect what we have
100%.
And honor those and the bricks. And the business and the building here are just one of those examples I want to talk to you about today.
And so on the screen is the building, right? And you refer to it as the bricks, right? Is not only the business, but the actual building, the brick building, or what do you call it?
Yeah. The bricks.
The bricks building.
And we've been having discussions about, so technically if you see that the paneling up top, we could put a new historic name on the building itself. But right now this corner has been referred to as the bricks for 15 years based on the business downstairs. It's a beautiful building.
This architecture, I love these old buildings. They're just so unique. They're very hard to replicate.
And it's gone through a lot too. The building, you can tell where she's a little worn. She used to have different balconies, all the things that we're considering. It's a sand brick which is important to know. It's a special kind of brick. It takes a special kind of restoration. And so with where we're at now, focusing on the building, it's going from the roof, dried in, new roof. Right now, if you go out there, there's pallets of the roofing material that since we closed a couple months ago, we've got on site. It's going to go on top. And then from there, new HVAC to dry the building in, then your MEP systems, then your windows, your exterior, your brick. So we're going to be putting, it's an elastomeric product. With Barrio Latino, you have to get an approval on the color, the material, but it seals in. And the goal is to protect the building for another 100 years long after we're gone. And then once that's done, we've been making some minor cleanups on the inside, the flooring, the lighting, the wall colors, just clean up the bar a little bit, and really focusing on hospitality, quality of food, service, expanding the hours. Every time I'm in Ybor, someone makes a joke about there's not enough spots for lunch. And so we're bringing this back to daytime lunch hours with a food that you're excited to go there for. But it's really at the end of the day, what hospitality is about is creating community and a destination where people want to hang out and spend time, and making that a meeting spot for Ybor in the next chapter.
How many square feet is the building?
11,000 and change.
11,000 and change. Yeah, it's a good size, man. And super strategically placed. Like you can even see in this photo, Gasworks phase 1 going up right there, only I think 3 blocks away, right across the train tracks. Hotel Haya's catty corner behind where we're looking.
That's right and Haya is obviously an institution already. It's a new age
Isn't it
institution.
crazy? Man,
people love that. Everyone comes to town.
Yeah.
Every time you go there, everyone has a good experience. Doesn't matter where people are from. They love that experience. And I think that's such an impressive characteristic about Tampa and where it's going in this kind of this West Ybor from 15th.
This corner right here is important, I feel. You've got Haya, you've got the building, the bricks we've just described. This building on this would be the southeast corner is for lease currently. I think you mentioned you're working on that, leasing that out.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later in the show. We've got a tenant LOI signed up.
So that'll get activated. By the way, another beautiful building, the tile work and
gorgeous.
Even the coloring is really cool, the green and the yellow. And then of course Gasworks connecting it all. This intersection is really, really important because I would imagine you're going to have foot traffic up and down. This is what, 4th Street.
This 14th?
No, this street right here. What street is this? 14th?
So that's 14th. We're at the intersection of 14th and 7th.
So 14th is going to have a lot of people going back. They're going to be going to Gasworks, checking
and
that out.
And it connects north too to the grid under the interstate, which is important to keep in mind.
Right. So with you owning this new building here, were you betting on this intersection being critical to the western part of Ybor's district?
Yeah, and this building is one of a larger strategy to kind of support the efforts around the new development, the new growth, and that density, and kind of pick off some of the historic buildings that need care and attention and a unique focus on investment and kind of a different perspective that we'll talk about today on the long-term business and how you treat those assets. But to your question on the intersection, 14th and 7th, if you look at going the other way to the East Ybor and working our way back, go to 21st, 22nd, and 7th, where Columbia is. The tourism, the traffic, everything that happens out there is a pure form destination. And that's so important to think about because both the locals and people coming to visit, the tourists, are here. And even though the traffic's crazy, it's always packed. And so the retail around here is already prospering. We recently put Tico Cafe, TICO, the Venezuelan gentleman, right east of 21st. On the right-hand side.
The little bakery.
And if you haven't been there, that bakery is New York, Paris quality of a shop. It's across from the old Saddlebag space that's now being re-tenanted.
Holy shit! Where'd you go, David? Was that inside the Columbia restaurant?
Yeah, that was inside the Columbia.
So this little bakery right here.
Yeah.
Man.
So this little bakery.
God, look how pretty that looks. Beautiful building.
Yeah, so Cooper and Claire and my team brought them to this location because they're an absolute destination. Being on this side of 21st. Now, you saw the recent rezone news about East Ybor, and that's super exciting. That's like the next frontier. And when that's all complete, it'll balance out. But right now, being east of 21st is a little bit more challenging. So with this destination bakery and cafe, people are coming from a long drive time. He's a Venezuelan chef that's running it. and it's got a line around the corner. But when you look at the product, it's curated. It's beautiful. The glass cases. David, you can pull up some of the photos later and show some of the actual pastries inside. It's exquisite. But going back to the intersection, so 21st and 7th, that's a key intersection. Mm-hmm. As you start to move west, for the sake of this discussion, you're going to get to, call it 16th and 7th, where Centro Ybor is. And if you recall, Centro didn't used to be there. 16th used to connect all the way through. And when that was built, it became the de facto central of the district.
Correct.
So now what you've got is you've got East Ybor, east of 21st. You got, which is the next frontier. You got Ybor proper, around Centro Ybor, Central Ybor, where tourist, entertainment, the current energy is at, and you have West Ybor from 15th going over. So as you cross through 15th and you go by Copper Shaker and you see Hotel Haya, that's where things get more quaint. The culinary arts really kick in, and we're excited about Mise en Place, a few other concepts I can talk to you about today that have already committed to West Ybor. But yeah, so getting back to 13th and 7th, David, where the Bricks is at, that corner.
Go north-south, David.
Is key. Because, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. That is the gateway. If you're at Centro Ybor, you're at Columbia, and you're heading west, you're either going to start at, my philosophy, you're going to start at Gasworks, and you're going to head to Centro or Columbia, or you're going to start at Columbia and Centro, and you're going to end up at Gasworks as a part of your exploration of Ybor City.
So Daryl on the show talked about how his vision really would be that the Columbia is the centerpiece, not Centro Ybor. And you're basically describing that same theory. And of course, we've all seen these renderings on the east side of Ybor. There's really two separate pieces of news here. One of them is there was a master rezoning of, I believe, many different parcels scattered throughout the east side of the district. Okay.
Yep.
Separately,
scale.
There was a multitude of blocks, adjoining blocks, that will be the new TGH campus. Okay, so these are
further
really
south down by Adamo.
Further south down by Adamo. In addition to, behind IKEA, the rezoning of the property south of Adamo for residential use, which is currently, I believe, industrial. Mm-hmm. So this was also rezoned. So you've got this and this is actually interesting looking at this map David has pulled up, because the east side of 22nd, you can see a lot of blank space where over the decades homes have fallen into disrepair and been condemned and bulldozed, and the lots have sat vacant for a long time. Mm-hmm. And so a part of that rezoning is, I believe, some of those parcels of property within.
It's scattered off of 7th, really from 21st, 22nd, all the way over to the interstate. And it's a few blocks in both north and south of 7th. And it's a spread, what's great about that is there's going to be new infill development mixed in while keeping and honoring some of the older homes and that character.
Yeah.
So it's not just all master planned. And yet, to your point about 21st, 22nd, and Columbia being the actual center of Ybor, I would submit that was the original center, and we created Centro Ybor 25 years ago. But the reality is that's the center, and then you have east, and then you have west. And then if you look, between 15th and 21st, right now that's been behaving as the core, but it should all spread out. That density when people are meeting and gathering will end up happening on the east side of 7th, and that's why the Tico Bakery and pushing east is that next frontier. And it's really capped off. You brought up the TGH deal further south of there. Well, that really just gives institutional credibility to, this is a real neighborhood and district where people are going to live, work, and play by adding TGH and that housing to the district.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I see it sort of happening is that western side has more of a higher end establishment feel to it. Some of these Michelin restaurants and really cool concepts, and you may foresee a dressed up date night there with some dinner and drinks.
That's right.
The center part is more touristy, some ground floor retail, your traditional Ybor, people taking pictures of the brick buildings, watching cigars get rolled through the window. And then this eastern side is more residential. Is that safe to say? There's more of a quiet residential feel to it?
I think that's a safe way to say it. Now, of course, with any mixed use, it would be negligent to not mix in some retail.
Sure.
Because going back to that live, work, play, and there will be some office and some other. But yeah, I think that's a fair way to position the east side. David, if you could zoom into 8th and 13th, please. So we'll talk about a few of the other highlights on the west side. So Mise en Place, I think we want to see 40-year institution of Tampa, has successfully and proudly relocated to the corner and the base of the Casa Gomez. I was there Friday before last for one of our colleague Claire's birthday parties. We rented out the back room. It was packed.
Amazing.
Like literally amazing. And what was interesting is I was trying to be courteous and do a dinner at like 6 to not hit the 8 o'clock crowd, but they were packed earlier from 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way packed on a Friday to where even, with 2 weeks notice, we took a later slot. And we're super excited about the success there. And if you really think about the culinary arts and the vision and what that actually means, that she's willing to come from her infamous location, is awesome, off of Kennedy to here. And then if you go over across the street, David, there's the 1803 building. I don't know what that's being called yet, but she's working on small plates and wine. And there's a different, if you go right down this, if you can go down the trolley on the left, there's an event center.
Just zoom in.
It just doesn't let me go down.
It doesn't let you. Yeah, across from, you see where that trolley stop is?
Yeah.
Garrett? Right across the street from that.
And the yellow.
And we're having champagne on the second floor in there with the dim lights and the exposed brick. And it was absolutely beautiful. And then downstairs, you're going to be able to do, I don't know if there's going to be like culinary classes and experiential retail. But with that kicking off right there, and then we're really excited that we put a chef, we call him Chef Johnny, from his restaurants. He's got a plethora of restaurants, but he has a couple Michelin stars. He's taken the Rooftop with the Tokyo Swim Club is the name of the concept, which is like, Japanese, I think Japanese whiskey, the Japanese steaks, and having those small meats. And that concept is going to be absolutely killer.
In hospitality, I've seen a lot of that recently where it's not a full-blown restaurant that has a high energy feel, think of like Meat Market or Poppy Steak in Miami. And then it's not a full-blown nightclub, right, where you'd go to and watch a DJ set and have a dance floor and VIP tables. But there's something happening in between, which you could find a lot of times in big cities.
Yep.
Lounges is
lounge
what they're
vibe.
called, right? The lounge vibe. And I'm so glad to see that happening here, because that's what I'm looking for. Like, I'm 33 years old. You know what I mean? It's like that kind of middle ground, small plates and alcohol and hanging out and chilling with some good music. Like, that sounds really, really cool. And I don't think Tampa had enough of it, but it's popping up. I mean, Water Street has a few of those concepts. I think isn't that what Predalina is leaning towards kind of too?
Yeah.
Because they started off as a restaurant,
more of
and
a
I
restaurant.
believe they're leaning into that kind of cool hangout vibe, cocktail, small plate type thing.
Yeah,
from my understanding.
They redid the interior to a little bit darker, more textiles, and a little bit more heavier curtains, candlelight. And when you're in there, right, it's still got great food. It's still Mediterranean, but it has more of a lounge vibe.
Yeah.
And you're spot on, right? Like, the proper target demographic doesn't want to be in a club where it's so loud and they can't move and this and that, and they don't want to be in a sterile restaurant.
Right.
You want that space in between, which is what real cities execute, and we'll call it a lounge. And so, yeah, Johnny Tung, his concepts range from Michelin star restaurants through, in Orlando, I went to an old building that he converted into 6 or 7 different Asian concepts. He had like a sushi, a Japanese whiskey bar, he had like duck on the rack, and all these different things in an old warehouse. And it's on Mill Street in Orlando, which is like East Orlando, which is like a trendy neighborhood. And we could. If
I was going to say, David, if you can, let me see a picture of this place. Interesting. Let's talk real quick, Josh, while he pulls that up, about like the importance of these places. Right, there's something going to be very unique. I mean, even this picture that's up right here, like, first of all, what an iconic photo. Like, you've got the chickens, you've got the streetcar stop, and you've got the brick building, and then the Density and the scale of Ybor City. I told you before we went live, I was talking to my grandfather this past weekend about just the changing dynamic in the urban environment and how people are so less connected than they used to be. And he, without prompt, really, I mean, he certainly doesn't listen to the show because every time I see him, he's like, what the hell is this podcast? People keep talking about this podcast. Where the hell can I find it?
Kind of a big deal.
And I'm like, dude, it's on the internet. Don't worry about it. Just know I'm putting in some good work out there. It's
That's
all
right.
good.
I
but
love that.
without prompt,
Congrats.
he said,
That's so cool.
He's like, Ybor City might be the only place we can get this right. And I was thinking about that. And when you look at this picture at the scale, the zoning, the wide sidewalks, these really beautiful brick streets, the transportation asset that is the streetcar, the cool concepts you're describing about coming to this district. Like
City Park,
like
the cobblestone.
he
it's the
literally
whole
might
combo.
be right. Like when you talk about the state of Florida and the, I would say, overgrowth of suburbanism and the erosion of our beautiful Florida cities. I mean, even places like Brooksville, I think, have opportunity, like these cool little downtowns. Like Ybor City was a really amazing iteration of that 100 years ago. And with the streetscape, the brick, the streetcar, the way the zoning is established in the district, the barrio, with the design standards, like he might be right. This neighborhood, this district might be the greatest opportunity
totally right.
Florida has.
For some reason, for the last 20 years in Florida, when you thought of Florida and the word development, you thought of suburban, you thought of like a lifestyle center out in the middle of a new intersection, or like a glassy high rise in Miami. And that's not actually Florida's only development.
Right.
This is Florida's actual development that matters, where you're taking the old, curating that, mixing it in. Because it creates the experience that your grandfather's talking about Ybor has still.
It's just the new iteration of it. So it's not going to be the same because it's not the same, but the fabric is there. You know, and a place, first of all, Tokyo Swim Club is a really cool name. You can only imagine the vibe.
Yep.
And David, did you find that other... What's the name of it, Josh?
If you search Johnny Tongue, kind of Mills out in Orlando, it should probably come up. But I'll share the renderings that they can pull up about. So Mills Market is like so this is just one of his concepts. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but it's just an old abandoned building that he put several different little Asian inspired concepts in the back of it. And it ranges from everything. And like, look at this. It looks like an older building, but when you go inside it, you feel like you're in Manhattan, to where there's all these different concepts. They're all great food. They're all kind of quick QSR. And what ends up happening is it's full all day and all night because it's trendy, it's approachable, the quality of the food. His wife has a little jewelry thing in the back. Talk about legit Chinatown feel.
Yeah, right. But that's character and that's soul and that's just the diversity of use and culture in one place speaks to what Ybor always was.
And that's why he was so excited. So we talked about this in previous episodes. When you bring culinary artists, experts, it's not even culinary, entrepreneurs that see it and get it, he immediately snapped in. And it took us a couple weeks to get this deal done, get him in here. And the renderings, it's going to be like, honestly, like nothing Ybor's seen yet. Like the design, I should have texted it to him.
You can
before
airdrop
so
it to David as we continue to talk. So from what you're describing, right? Because this to me, like the mindset is this big city mindset, meaning you're not locked into one flavor. You're not locked into one particular way of doing business or design. So what you're saying is an operator like this, when they come into Ybor and you describe the vision and when you show them the current fabric, they get excited because they feel like they can be a part of it.
And the operators that get it, like I said, that how quick he understood. Sometimes we're on the phone and we're presenting Ybor and its best light, and we're explaining about where it's going to go and all these different things. We didn't need to do that with Johnny. He kind of cut us off and was like,
"Say no more.
You guys are exactly right. This is where I want to be as far as having my business next location. It's trendy. It's cool. We get it." David, I'm sending him over now via text, and he's moving forward. And so the renderings that we're going to pull up, you'll see and understand. But that came from if you look at his other resume of restaurants, he's got business QSRs, all the way ranging through Michelin star restaurants. And so to like the Mills Market, I just pulled this up because it's a cool little artistic creative concept. And that's what Ybor, that's the next institutions. So going back to the kind of the point of the discussion is we're protecting the existing institutions that we've mentioned, but we're also setting up ready for the future for all this progress. And there's so much momentum right now in Ybor. Like I'm going to give you another half a dozen deals that we've done the last 6 months. Claire Cooper and my team have done, but this is just to give you an idea about one of them on the rooftop of Gomez. So you now got Mise en Place downstairs.
Yeah.
Okay. You've got Tokyo Swim Club upstairs. We've got, a New York operator going in the old Southern Nights building at 1401 East 7th, and then our work on the bricks. And this is all in just one little cluster.
This is some big city shit, man. Like this is some stuff that you got to go
exactly
to. You know what I mean, though? Like when you go to a place like New York, it's almost like you stumble into these things. Like you enter some little lounge and it's all built out really interestingly with these cool cocktails. Like when I look at this image, I'm frankly not thinking of Tampa, and that's a shame, but
that's our point.
Right.
That's exactly what we all should be working on.
I mean, look at this rooftop. Can you imagine?
And David, I'm sending you now the current rooftop, which in itself is beautiful and is cool. The first time I went up there, I had an event a little while ago, and it's a really neat rooftop in itself. But once you look at the befores and then you see this, you're like, yes, this guy gets it. And this is a unique location. Some people would be scared to invest money in this West Ybor location because they don't get it. But David, I'll encourage you when you're done showing the old rooftop, the westybor.com website that we put up, talking about the hospitality corridor and why West Ybor brings that character of quaint, elevated, unique experiences, and it's right next to Centro and Central Ybor and where the entertainment district is, but not right in it.
So you have established this sort of as a brand, West Ybor. Wow. And
the neighborhood's been calling it, to be clear, Ybor's, some call it the West End, West Ybor. It's just the idea.
But using
it
while you're talking to hospitality operators or restaurateurs or whatever it may be.
That's right.
Describing to them this west side of Ybor is where they want to be because of XYZ. And you mentioned those points. There's like this quaintness. The buildings themselves feel authentic because they are. I mean, even the new buildings are built to look like they're 100 years old in a really methodical way.
Garrett, 20 years ago when I lived on 5th and 20th, we'd go out, have a big night. Next morning, I'd get up, hop on my bicycle, and go ride around Ybor looking for a breakfast burrito or something. Back when Tropicana was open, you could go get the beans and rice on the bike.
Yeah.
And talk about institutions. That was one that we were talking about recently. But I ride through this area, and now you have the Church of Scientology on the north side. But that was Ybor Square, and yet all these different blocks. And so the Hyatt really seeded this neighborhood extremely effectively.
Yes.
And so much foresight, to those developers, Daryl and the team on this west side, and Casa Marti, Casa Gomez, Casa Pedroso. So Casa Pedroso is the last space, actually, that doesn't have a commitment. You have downstairs at Gomez, the Mise en Place. You have upstairs with Johnny. It's this space right over here.
Casa Pedroso to me I'm actually kind of surprised that one is the last one to be available, just because of the proximity to that park. You've got the beautiful, it's sort of a shame Scientology has taken over that whole block because it's such a cool building. But the plus side is it seems like, I don't know the dynamic between like the ownership, the responsibility of keeping the building the way it is, but they seem to be really good stewards of the real estate. Like it's a beautiful building. It's clean.
They have a good budget.
They have a good budget. They're putting a lot of, so at least it looks
and
nice.
it's a little bit of an information black hole.
You know what I'm saying though?
Like they take care of the building. It's not
like the building is in disrepair, right? It looks good.
So if truth be told, I would love to buy their ground floor condo and create retail across the street, but they don't have any motivation to sell.
Have you had that conversation with them?
I've tried to, of course. So this they're
like, you got to join the club, bro.
You have to join the club after 5 years. Your hazing's over, and then you're then we'll consider your development. Now
so this is 5,325 square feet here on the ground floor, which is available.
It's dirt floor shell. meaning that sometimes you go in, there's already a slab. This already has complete kitchen drawings in CD form that can just be modified in CAD. And what will happen is we're going to basically probably it'll be one large operator, or we'll split it up. We've talked to a really boutique high-end for doing an inline space on the left and then doing a wine bar on the corner. If Mary Ann's moving forward with her wine bar around the corner of 1803, though, we might shift that, because it's all about finding that right balance in the neighborhood. Because with 4, 5, 6 really good concepts, all in walking distance, anchored by Haya, mission accomplished.
So what is your thoughts on some of the late nighttime entertainment operators as they interact with this west side of Ybor? So for me, just real quick, like, growing up in Tampa and visiting Ybor, like I've been in Ybor and like found my dad out there. You know what I mean? Like my dad had his retirement party with the Hillsborough Bar at Carne, the Chop House, the old steak place.
Right there.
Yeah, and then they all went out, right? It's like, it's not like Ybor only like one type of people goes to party in Ybor is what I'm saying. Like there's prominent people all across the city that love to go and party in Ybor. And so, is there a future where you go have this like 5-star meal experience and then you go dancing or drinking down 7th, or is the vision for the west side of Ybor for it to be like this sort of more closed off portion of the district that includes those entertainment uses? Because the reason I ask is the only thing you've mentioned is like food concepts. I mean, and lounge concepts.
Yeah, it's a fair point. And then you got like Sky Puppy, the little brewery there. You have Hotel Haya that really rounds out the institutional footprint. There's so many opportunities to have entertainment and dancing in the next chapter of kind of Centro Ybor and from Centro to 21st as that district repositions itself with natural, new demand from people from Gasworks and then West Ybor. La Union's filled up really good. Shout out to David. And all that filling in. Well, it takes people with forward thinking to come live in these areas. And those are the same ones that are going to walk to 7th. And it's going to balance out the current entertainment that's there. So there's going to be plenty of dance clubs on 7th still. So you're still a few blocks away from West Ybor.
I'm giggling because I think David's even been hit up like, yo, we watched the show. We moved to Gasworks because you and your wife did. I think I've probably told people where you live like 100 times on this show, so I probably should stop. But it sounds like it's helping lease the building out. I mean, didn't somebody tell your wife like, oh, we saw you like living over here and we figured we'd try it?
Someone hit her up on TikTok. Yeah, they're moving in there too. They want to hang out. But yeah, I should get a commission from Kettler or something.
Yeah, what the hell, man?
You have done a good job promoting it. Him and I've done like a little bit of work talking about the last section of the projects and how those sellers are unrealistically priced based on how high you can go in multifamily and how that is almost a tragedy towards the bigger mission.
All kidding aside, it is a good point though. It's like younger people in general, not just younger people, but people in general who appreciate urban living want to be where the cool, creative types go, in my opinion. And I think, David has told a story on the show before, but it's like, that's why they chose to live there. Cause it was like new and cool and different. And it had a culture to it. It had a story to it. Mm-hmm. Whereas a lot of other apartment complexes, either in the suburbs or other parts of the city, it's kind of just your basic podium building.
So check this out. First off, all credit to the design, the quality, the materials on the inside and outside that goes into this. This isn't just a cost-effective apartment. This is really thoughtfully done to blend with the district. And then the interior finishes, when you're in there, it adds value to the customer and honors Ybor. It's just, the project nailed it. With that said, it's still new development, okay? So the discussion now is as you leave here and you head east onto 7th is if some of this new density is necessary for progress, but what are we going to do to protect the institutions and the existing structures and buildings that are already in Ybor? And David, so if we go back to that 7th and 13th intersection, that I want to use that to kind of drive this point, is you've got this beautiful
Look how pretty that is, man.
Yeah, that's the architect's office. And then look, this, by the way,
Shout out Chancey.
shout out Chancey. It's new, so, new, beautifully done, relatively new build. Look, Casa Marti right there in the corner is beautifully done, new building where you can't even tell with an older building that's mixed in between the new from a distance. So keep spinning it around, David. So as you enter the district here, you have West Ybor on the left. So that's Marianne and Mise en Place, and then that's her 1803 wine that we're talking about. And then keep going down. You've got Social Status, which is another new add to the district on the left-hand side. Social Status, Claire and Cooper brought them in from High Park Village, which, what a recruit. Like, if you're in High Park Village, that right now is the spot for Tampa Ybor. And they've come here, and they're telling us that their sales are higher here than they were in High Park Village, which is the one of the top retail nodes in the district. And they do trendy things. They have they have the new shoe offerings in small batches. The Air Jordan ones, whatever that new fad is.
It's probably so crazy to live in Ybor right now, David. It's like every time you turn around, there's something new or a phase of gasworks, being completed or improving, or, walking down 7th, like you even mentioned before we went live that you checked this place out and you said it was super dope.
So yeah, it's really nice. It's really well done. They have really good styles and everything like that. But they also have in the back, it's a co-work area. They have desks, and they even told us, I walked in there, I'm like, oh, what's this space in the back? They're like, yeah, it's co-working. Like, bring your laptop, you can come chill here and get work done.
Oh, damn.
And they do events too, right, David? And then Cooper was telling me earlier, they do like small batch releases. So if there's 70 of a new shoe that comes out, they'll give it here before a Foot Locker or any of those get it. So it's just a success story. Yeah, David. It's
very different than what Ybor had in the past, as in like the last 10 years. Like this, I didn't think this would be on 7th Avenue, but it is, and it's doing very well. So obviously people want it.
So here's the thing. How do we get someone like me to have the space where I could buy a place and live in Ybor? Because right now I'm thinking, okay, I'm looking at the intersection you described with the wine bar. And I'm like, dude, that would be so cool to walk to in the evening with my wife. There's some stuff for the kids. I'm like, but there's nowhere I could live unless I bought maybe a home on the east side, right? Like I have a wife and 2 kids. So, I probably wouldn't live in an apartment. Is there a more quiet area of the district that will have higher square footage residential units that's being planned in everything we've talked about today?
Yeah. The further you get from the concentric core and that main density of epicenter of retail and people and whatnot, in general, your cost per foot go down. So to that point earlier about East Ybor and the residential that's out there,
Right.
A lot of opportunity there. Even if you go north of I-4, people are, have a hard time quite fathoming this right now. But this whole area, there's the J.C. Newman Cigar Factory. We did a tour walk through YouTube and there just to promote that.
That little area is turning into a cool pocket too.
That's my point. And look, you got 21st and 22nd directly connecting you to Columbia and that part of Ybor. You've got 14th shooting through, 12th kind of shooting through, connecting. So don't forget, depending on where you're coming from, South Tampa, but don't forget that there's a lot of housing.
Look, to be candid, we're happy where we're at. We bought a house 1.5 years ago, and it's adequate and it's great, and we're staying put. But I'm really asking about a slightly younger version of me who is newly married, or even more importantly, there's a lot of people moving from big metros that are used to like a really cool urban environment. And they should
buy one of these bungalows for $400,000 or $500,000 and thank us in 10 years that they did it.
So that's what you're saying. So,
it's going to be a killer investment.
Right.
And then you can still walk and bike to the core while still having a house and then property. I'm renovating a condo on 5th and 16th, David, right now. And I love this district on 5th. Right here, when I lived in the area 20 years ago, and I was on 5th and 20th, I noticed this stretch of 5th from really the gasworks all the way through 21st is so quaint. It's a mix of bungalows. It's a mix of new townhomes. It's a mix of really unique. So you got some new townhomes down there. Keep going, and then heading here. Like
to the right.
when these were built, when these were built 20 years ago on the right, I knew how cool they were, and they're still cool today. So I'm grabbing a unit in there just to be closer.
And it's like a townhouse style where you get 2 floors.
Yep.
Front entry.
Yep. And then there's these top floor units that are really cool up there. And the idea though is that I go back to the overall strategy. The big thing that everyone should understand is like the live, work, play.
Yeah.
Okay. So mentioned the Bricks Bar needs TLC, hospitality, food, drink, staffing, coaching. Trying to get closer to that. So we're moving our team to an office building that I'll show you in a second. And it's about having that whole experience, which is going back to Ybor's original roots as a village, where you do all the things together. And what your grandfather was saying about that cluster. If you go up a little bit on the left.
I thought it was so cool how someone turning 93 years old, without me like nerd dumping on him, all this stuff I talk about on the show, independently recognized that. You know, especially his mom was born in Ybor City in a house. Yeah. You know, it's like, that's really cool because that tells me people really are starting to understand what this is. This isn't about, and I'm not speaking for anybody, I'm speaking for myself, but this, meaning the growth and the future of Ybor, isn't about a specific person or a specific business or a building. It's about the lifestyle of a district that includes a multitude of uses to an old way of life, which is the origin story of Ybor City. It really is a turning back of the clock to rebuild the district into what it once was.
That's why I'm still lobbying to move you back, so we need your voice. David, turn around and real quick and go 1 or 2 more blocks.
We're going to have to set up a shadow LLC because as soon as they see my name, they're going to be like, oh.
Well, that's part of being us. So right on the left, David. That's what I wanted to show. This is the house I was joking about earlier that I'd like to move you to the district. This is Jack Shiver's old house.
So cool.
So Jack Don Vicente. And the legendary hotel and the underground parties that he'd throw behind Hotel Haya, he lived in that house for a while, and so he recently invested in this. And it's like I think YC7. You could do pretty much anything with her, where it's a law firm, accounting, but we're thinking of a day spa, and maybe having like cold plunge, and then hot tub saunas all in the back, where it's like a big jungle property.
What does that YC7 zoning get you? Is it just a mixed use? You can kind of go residential. You could go commercial.
I think that's the neat use of this. Is you can go residential long term. You can go overnight stay.
Yeah.
Or you can do a lot of different commercial.
Is it a historic home that you could tear down and redevelop one day, or is it protected?
It's definitely historic. I never even thought about it, right? Because it's such a treasure. But yeah, you would not be able to tear that down, Barrio. Have you? But you also wouldn't want to either.
Sure.
Right. So that's 2,500 square foot property at a neat location.
Well, the reason I'm thinking of I'm not thinking of tearing it down, but the reason I asked the question is because if that's true, then Ybor will probably always maintain that like Florida shotgun shack thing, meaning when I'm walking around the district with my grown children, my kids are very young, babies at 2 years old. Like when I walk this district and they're my age, it will still have some of these houses, these like shotgun style houses.
And isn't that important to you? You want that for your kids.
100%. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that the story of Ybor as this like immigrant driven working class community that was supported by one particular industry that sort of blossomed into this diverse mix of use and businesses, etc., will always be maintained because of these little houses and because they're protected in the barrio.
Ybor was founded on those workers, that working class 100 years ago. It was walkability. Ybor is not designed for cars. Other parts of Florida and suburbia and North Tampa, that's designed for cars. Ybor is designed for walkability and workers, and that's what is going on with the Renaissance now, is taking it back to that and filling it in with housing. And I'd submit that, these little bungalows, they shouldn't go anywhere. Have you been to St. Augustine or the Florida Keys?
Both.
Like Key West?
Yeah.
Okay, you want to talk about cool history? People.
This actually looks like Key West, by the way.
That's no coincidence. That's where I'm taking us in discussion, because I know you're a history buff. if you look at the development and the Cuban influence and the
Right.
cigars and those things in the early 1900s, late 1800s in Key West, and that was a major, it still is obviously a major hub, but it was a major hub. And then you go back even before that to the 1400s when the bungalows and even back then the stone of St. Augustine was built. In modern history, we think a lot about 1700s and the Northeast of the United States. And that's the beginning of North America, the beginning of the United States. But if you actually think about it, Columbus and that crew was developing St. Augustine in the 1400s.
Right. Yeah. The codes and the restrictive pieces of Ybor development, the fact that you have to go through the barrio, all these different layers are the most challenging in the entire city. I think I would be
Absolutely.
safe to say that,
Yep.
right? Yet, the excitement from someone like you and someone like me, and a lot of other people to get into the district and be a part of it, whether it's opening businesses. We've talked about some of these creative people who, boom, they get it,
Right.
right? Harry Caiaphas is a great example. You know, Sterling Cigar Lounge,
Yep.
right?
Really cool.
So, you know, he's a contractor in New York. He retires. He comes down here. He loves the cigar culture.
What a
He
move,
buys a
too.
lot. Amazing. Builds this his building
He
is
did
one.
density.
The building
He
built,
maximized his density.
that
I'm literally,
little lot
you can
right next
tell
to
he's a New
7-Eleven.
Yorker. Because in New York, by the way, people do this all day, every day. Whether you're building 4 or 5 stories, you're filling density, or you're building 100 stories on 57th next to Central Park.
Look how
you're,
thin
you're
it
going
is.
tall. That is such a case
But
study.
but
And
here-
people, I hear there's some controversy around that too.
Yeah.
Which I don't want to get into, but
Controversy like what though?
well, it's
Ingress, egress, fire, that kind of BS, or what?
Look, it's a lot of
Tell me offline.
it's a lot of density. Yeah, it's a lot of density. And then the 7-Eleven.
It's completely appropriate. We'll talk about that offline, whatever that may be. But look what this guy built. It's a beautiful building.
Beautiful. He did an
fits right in
amazing
on 7th
job.
Avenue. So what I wanted to ask, and I should probably flush these points out before I just blurt
No,
them
not
out
at all.
on the
That's the
show.
point of the show.
Yeah, right. But it's like there's a huge conversation that I think will actually bubble up into the federal level. Probably not this coming presidential election, maybe the next one. We'll see what happens. You're starting to see it at the state level, a conversation surrounding development, quality design. Fishback, the candidate for governor, has been pushing more citrus, more agriculture, right? He's like drawing a line in the sand for good development versus bad development. I'm being
That's
very general here, but what I'm trying to ask you is, and what I'm trying to say is, even though the district in this city has the most restrictive codes from a real estate developer / investor's perspective, you are enthusiastically wanting to jump into the district to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And you've been a part of it for a couple decades. But the fact that it has those restrictive codes aren't like, oh, like I've never heard you one time, the city needs to change these and we need to figure out a better way to allow this area to grow. And I actually haven't heard that from anybody. So it's like,
Go into politics if you want to change legislation.
am I making sense at all? So
Yeah,
it's,
no,
so it's
absolutely.
like,
So David, go back to 14th and
And I
7th,
bring-
and then show that development. It's a really good segue. There's additional levels. I've had architects tell me, I've had more than one architect tell me that you're like a glutton for punishment. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, well, there's for-profit development, and then there's adaptive reuse and historical buildings, where you have potentially twice the work. And like, so this intersection, so we're talking about major intersections, right? 21st and 7th, 16th, where Centro is. And I think that this intersection right here, where you've got all the development and density coming in the background, and you have these 2 beautiful buildings across from Hotel Haya. This is what good development should be about, which is restoring and saving and honoring and maximizing the tenancy within buildings like this, while you have adjacent density filling in vacant land and replacing metal buildings that added no value. And I think this is kind of a perfect case study to that. Right now we're filling out the paperwork to save the bricks building. So there's a lot, on everything that you do. You have to go in with your rendering, show it, get approval, changing the signs out. We want to keep the same cool signs to honor the heritage of it, but we're going to kind of redo them. And so there's approval for that. Everything takes twice as long. Even the color of the building, you get samples and you get to choose your colors. You can't just choose whatever color you want. There's 18 colors that fit in the palette. And so when you're looking at all that, even you see the wood down there is rotting, we're going to replace, replacing the wood versus going to aluminum. Mm-hmm. It's all, thoughtfully regulated to your point.
I don't want to dig too deep into a segue here, but let me bring up one more example. And the reason I'm asking is almost like, what I'm trying to get at is, by we, I mean people, and I'm being general, but we want to encourage good quality development, right? It's like, we all know people are moving to our city. There's so many factors that lead to that are outside of the city's control. We're just going to have to deal with it. Well, how can we deal with it? Well, let's incentivize developers to do the right thing and bring quality design to our city, rather than putting up too many guardrails or making it more difficult, et cetera, et cetera. The better path forward is to partner with those people to encourage them for quality design. Yep. And I'm thinking of different areas in the city. And again, I'm not trying to go off on a tangent with you here, because I know we want to continue to talk about Ybor, but it's like, when you look at old pictures of Davis Islands, which is now 100 years old, that was all developed to be a certain look and a certain feel. It was Mediterranean revival. It was a walkable district. I mean, the reason it failed was because of the stock market crash, then the Great Depression, 1929, and then into the 1930s, et cetera, et cetera. Had that not happened, what would Davis Islands had look like? Would you have more of of course, you'd have more of those Mediterranean buildings.
Would have all finished
then
out.
Would there have been a Barrio Latino version overlay for Davis Islands that would have protected the historic nature and lent itself to a more walkable, accommodating district in their little village they have? Because what I'm seeing right now in the city is, you've got these areas that were built with walkability and mix of use in mind before the sometimes invention of the automobile or the mass adoption of the automobile, and the worlds don't mix. Like, you can't have a grid and an infrastructure system that was built pre-automobile and then overlay a suburban code onto it. You don't get the kind of redevelopment you would expect. And so my point earlier about this district is, you've got the most intense restrictions and red tape, I'll use the word red tape, on development. And yet, some of the coolest operators, Mise en Place, great example, they want to be a part of it. They get it. They're making a bet on it. All these other people we talked about. So it's not so much that the red tape itself is the problem. It's a direction towards quality and intentional design and a vision that people can get behind and get along with.
It takes longer, it costs more, but if you do it right, it creates a better experience, which should indicate better free market economics. Like, it should all tie together. If you're creating a really good experience for your residents upstairs or for your retail tenants and how they interact, it's all ships rise with rising tides. And like, to that point is, when we invested in the building and we want to fix that building, like I say, we want to last 100 years after we're long gone. There's two ways to go. We could now sign a lease downstairs and bring in a new, and that still would be great for the district, to be clear, because it would be a new experiential real estate. We're using the word theatrical to kind of explain Johnny's, the Tokyo Swim Club, and how cool that is. But at the same time, find that balance of bringing that and then keeping the bricks. People in Tampa love the bricks. Everybody remembers that. Everybody has an experience. Everyone has multiple experience. And while that business has evolved over 15 years, the memories and the nostalgia, not still there. So while we're excited about working on improving that business and making investment in that business, investing in the people, investing in the food, going into hospitality, still having the skate park events there, but more live music. Really disappointing to hear Crowbar, candidly, and like talking about institutions on this show,
that was one. Yeah.
That's, so how do we respond to that? David, who's helping us out right now, he's in there. He's very committed. His thing is live music.
Yes.
Let's bring live music back here. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, having different kinds of live music. Even on Saturday, we slipped in a little real light DJ. You're still able to eat and talk,
Sure.
but to that lounge vibe.
Yes.
And then in the front corner, we removed one of the booths, and we had the little DJ up there, and we've had a small, in that little corner right there, we've had 2 or 3 person bands, and you take out those windows and you open it up. And so once we have a signed LOI on a New York operator who's coming to this corner, and then very, very cool vibes from Williamsburg. His name's Sean. We've worked well. And so that interaction between these two is going to give you that experiential real estate before you go into the larger development.
Do you think there's something to be said for people, operators of these particular businesses or other real estate people getting involved in the district to be a part of an air quote team?
Yeah.
Like see what you are doing and how you're not necessarily exclusively motivated by the financial aspect of this, but the community aspect of this. Do you think there's something to be said for other operators and real estate, businesses to come in and also follow in that same light and maybe buy some of these buildings and, for example, keep the tenants, maybe buy the business, improve the business, et cetera? Are you seeing that at all? Yeah.
That's why we're here, and why I'm talking about it with you is I think it's important. Even though my team and I are a small growing business that I built myself, there's no big institutional investors or partners or any of that behind. Each one of these deals is its own investment and venture. But even I recognize the importance of trying to keep some of these institutions around. Mm-hmm. And I hope that more people see it. And I know they will, and I think they will. And as you watch Ybor grow, it's obviously grown a lot already. And you look at these future chapters, all ships rise with rising tides.
Yeah.
New entrepreneurs, new ideas, it make it better for everybody.
At the same time, there's people from large markets all around the country looking for new, cool places to move to as they're being pushed out of their own market, just with the crazy shit going on.
A lot of that.
There's a lot of pressure in markets, particularly on the West Coast and the Midwest and then the Northeast. And so they've got to be looking, man. I'm sure you've talked to groups from the Northeast and all around the country that are like, what do you have? And when you show them this, clearly there's a good response.
Oh, yeah.
Are you surprised? Because you've been sticking with this for quite a while. Like you've seen maybe the very beginning when the idea was partly shocking and a little risky and crazy, now to where you've got operators really get it. You've seen that shift. Are you surprised at any of the groups that you've talked to? Because you said you couldn't talk about a few names, which leads me to believe that there's some large, shocking groups that are interested.
It's interesting when some groups are more resistant and are naysayers, and others, like the operator for the corner here, they just get it.
They just get it.
They see it. They get it. They don't need the full PowerPoint presentation, the full dog and pony.
Can you point that to anything specific? I mean, is it the story you tell, or is it the market they come from?
Look, it's our job as storytellers to paint the picture right. And me tell people 20 years ago I was riding my bike and this and that, and I care about the community, and look, this is now it's progressing, and then to give data points and leases signed. And so we've signed about a dozen pretty impressive leases in the last 12 months in Ybor. But what's interesting is no matter how good you convey the story, if you're talking to the right people, they just kind of get it. They look around, they see it. But people, like you said, we talked about this on previous shows. Sometimes people have to fly in, take a walk, sit down at Haya, have a cafe con leche up the road.
Just get immersed.
Yeah, I'll take them to Flan Factory. I'm like, well, I need to let that vibe.
Oh, I have an idea. We talked about this on the last episode with Linda Salsina. Ybor City street food needs to make a comeback.
Okay,
David, can you pull up the devil crab cart?
I know that little cart you're talking about.
You know that little cart?
We've talked about,
You've talked about it.
It should be out in that park where the roundabout is now.
Let's
go. The park that's due west of the marketplace and Gasworks is where that little... The cart's really cute, right?
People discuss...
It's like the white one. Yeah, it's the white one.
Come on, bro. What are we waiting on? It's like this city, from what I've witnessed on this platform and putting out everything we do on social, there is a big question about identity. I think people are very cautious that we become the next Orlando. I mean, I've talked about, I put out that clip about the next Miami, because that's been said before. Orlando, Jacksonville, you name it, Florida City, it was the point, right? It's not about Miami. It's about losing our story. That's what it's about. And with so many people moving here that don't know the story and the history, how do you maintain that culture? Well, I think you maintain it by allowing stuff like this and being creative
and encouraging it.
And
the reality is, this kind of stuff is what Tampanians, new or old, or tourists, are really finding fascinating, and keeping that culture. And that's what makes cities cool as they grow bigger, in my opinion, going from like a smaller mid-market to a larger market, keeping all that. And that, again, this goes back to the concept of, honoring, protecting, having consideration for the old institutions while making way for some of the new institutions. Like this guy in his crab car, like if we could find him, he is an institution, bring him back.
The growth is such an interesting concept, because when I look at an old picture of our urban core and I look at the grid today and the businesses and the establishments and the buildings we have today, I don't even think it's growing. I actually think we're still rebuilding what we lost.
I like that.
It's to me,
that.
Tampa used to be a small town and now we're growing too quickly. It's like, actually, we used to be bigger. We used to have 50 miles of streetcar network that reached from Seminole Heights down to Ballast Point.
And that's like following Henry Flagler's momentum, or how many decades after that?
That was when West Tampa was established as an independent municipality in 1895 and grew actually bigger than the state capital, Tallahassee, at the time, until it was annexed into Tampa in 1925. Yeah. So that sort of like turn of the century into the from the late 1800s to the early 1900s, which is at the same time Ybor was exploding, the Henry Plant Hotel, et cetera, like total boomtown. Streetcar network everywhere, the density of the buildings. This is pre-urban renewal, many decades before the highways came in. It was a bigger city back then than it is now.
Before the highway and I-4 and all that intersected.
Correct.
Just tore up the
West Tampa. You look at old pictures of West Tampa.
So cool. And even Main Street now, if you get off Farmington, head north, you make that immediate right, and you go back in there. It's super cool. I've gone down there looking at buildings all the time.
Huge opportunity.
And by the way, this related saw that and like immediately went up the river and just started attacking how cool that
finally
district
that
is.
Little area is getting its tons of infrastructure upgrades. Like if you drive there now, you look around and you go, this looks better than my freaking neighborhood.
They Armenia North. Like, it's
they
beautiful.
Got new sidewalks, new parks, new roads.
And still the retail hasn't quite caught up with it, but the infrastructure looks
at least they
great.
Got
and then same with Columbus. As you run in Columbus, obviously like anyone that's into urban renewal and development loves Columbus.
Yeah, I mean, but the point is like we really are still rebuilding a lot of what was lost.
I think that's a really, really good point.
That's the way I look at it. I think
we're building around the new interstates.
When it starts to get, I would use the word disrespectful, is where you have inappropriate uses in particular locations or improper density in particular locations, which goes back to the reason why the Ybor overlay is important.
What are your thoughts on Encore and that density?
Encore, the housing development here.
Yeah, I mean, I think about walkability between Channel District downtown, Ybor.
I have a thought, and then I have a but, right? It's like, so my thought is it's completely underutilized and inappropriate for that location. I think I think there's many issues I have with Encore. Yeah. But here's the but. It is a public housing development that was torn down that had to be rebuilt. And there's legal issues where by law you have to at least build what was there. You've got public money, so there's these layers that I think force this development into being what it is, which, hey, it is what it is, right? And I also will say it's only getting better. The creativity, I had on Leroy Moore on the show. He did a beautiful job of explaining the reason why it's developed the way it is. He was also very optimistic about the future. the new apartment buildings going in, the new grocery store. They've done a deal with Meacham Urban Farm, right?
Right.
The urban, like,
Which is
for what it is, for
what it is.
for the Tampa Housing Authority to take on that land and to do what they've done. They've done a good job. They've done a great job, actually. It's just, if that was like 100-acre parcel in an urban core,
there's
you know,
so much that could be done with it.
correct.
It's housing, it's density, it's progress, it's needed. At the same time,
Think of the
could
era,
more
early
have been-
2000s.
when it
you know.
rolled out. It's
Yeah.
just a part. It's a part of the story. But that Central Park, I ride the beach cruise there on Sunday, and I'll hang out in that little stretch of
It's a
park, a little
gem.
basketball there. If
Totally.
I don't feel like going all the way to Curtis Hickson or over the park, and then
I walk through it all the
David
time,
pulls
too.
up this monstrosity. It's but you know what's amazing about this that I love? Sometimes you're driving around like cities like Austin and Nashville, and you look over and there's just a random high rise far off the grid. When I first saw this, I was looking at it and I'm like, you look at those plans, you're like, it's ambitious, whatnot. But as the gas works, W blocks pop up right here, it's all going to fade in. So what's forward thinking does fill in. It's going to have great views for the housing in that area. It's going to provide workspace and downstairs retail.
Is this called the Harrison?
It is, I think
The Harrison. So this one's great. I mean, it's got a nice mix of use. You've got office component, ground floor, grocery, apartments.
Yeah.
And it's an Encore. And again, like, Encore needs to continue to develop and
Well, I was
develop those
just
parcels.
bringing this up because it adds a wild card into the Encore.
Yeah.
It has a lot of other type of.
And then you've
housing.
got, I know it's not technically a part of Encore, but it's right there, Mighty Fine and Late
really-
Start
yeah,
Brewing.
really cool.
Fantastic.
Their burger presses.
To your point
are
earlier,
terrific.
like, I'll park a couple blocks away and walk through Encore to get a vibe check. I like to check out that main street. I think it's Ray Charles Boulevard.
And they have all the
right?
music monuments and the.
Yeah, it's cool. It's just what I tried to figure out on that show with the housing authority was like, why doesn't it feel as authentic or as complete as other districts that are around the urban core that are successful? And again, I gathered from that conversation that it's because it's a public housing project. There's limitations.
That's a good point. But I mean, it's interesting how you position, and your family has such deep history in Tampa, Davis Island as a failed project. To me, as someone that moved here 20 years ago from Daytona Beach and like lived in Ybor, like I look Davis Island, you're like, it's done pretty well.
Oh, of course.
And
only
the
took
houses are
100
still
years.
beautiful. And I was looking at one of Miss Davis's houses that she owned for sale for 1.5, and I remember when it was 500,000. And I'm like, that's still that original that kind of beautiful Mediterranean house. But then you go to like Channel District. So I guess when Channel District was built, I've had an office and bought properties and have called that part of my home between Sky Point, Element, lived in South Tampa, Ybor, mostly Ybor, but like living in all these different places. Was Channel Sky could have been done a lot better, in my opinion. But it was still progress, is the point. And then Encore followed that. It's still progress. And like if you look at, Ybor's most thoughtful, caring.
But
Caring
also,
district of
like,
it.
keep in mind, and I think you know
And my
these
office
guys.
is behind you, David.
I've never met the guys that started some of the bigger stuff in Channel Side. You might know the name. The guys behind like Grand Central,
Mercury
right?
those
It's like
guys. Yeah,
that was
Stallings.
pieer type shit.
That's
at
the
time,
point. That's
you
the point
know?
that I'm making. Is the gentleman? So I had a drink at Stovall House with Greg Mender, who's one of the guys from Sky Point Element, with the Tampa developer. Who he was on a multifamily panel at Hotel High with me a couple of months ago, and I told him war stories of when I lived in Sky Point Element, and he did this building Meridian on the right that I've had units in and lived in on and off. And then I've had the office here in the Victory Lofts. This was the first real project in Channel District.
Wow.
When it was all warehouses, and it was barely safe to run or jog through. And I mean, it's a cool project.
Super cool.
For what it is, and it's withstood the test of time. Meaning, this 20+ year infrastructure still looks and feels cool. I'm proud now to be moving the team back to Ybor, and taking our office over there. But I've had a great run here and kind of taking the scooters to Ybor and back and forth. And the point being is, when I live here as a consumer that's really into urban development, I wish they could have done better retail, a lot more retail and better retail. And I'm kind of frustrated, like, wow, this ground floor parking structure.
Yeah.
You know, and you have blocks without any retail. And then I have to remind myself, late 90s urban development in Tampa was a lot different.
Well,
Someone would go
yeah.
vertical, they were happy.
I wanted to say that too. I think a lot of what we're talking about has to do with the sort of era. I mean, even in the 2000s, getting into the 2000s, the developments they were still drive to. Like when they built Channelside, it was literally called Channelside was the name of the development. Remember,
And before that, it was Channel District, and they made it Channel Side. Right?
Are you sure? I thought it was Channelside.
That commercial investment was Channel
Was
Side.
Channel Side,
yes.
correct.
I just mean this broader area.
No, yeah, Channel District was like, oh, what's the name of it?
And then they dropped Channel Side. They
correct.
built that in there with the Hooters.
And I've even been corrected, like, oh, I used to live in Channel Side. You mean Channel District? I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. But now it's Sparkman Wharf. But this development, I think, was early 2000s. Used to have Stump Supper Club, the movie theater up top, which is now Industrious.
Yeah.
That was built like a shopping mall that could have existed in like Fishhawk Ranch.
It was like
right?
an infill shopping mall. And at the time, it worked for several years.
Yeah, it was cool.
As a density location. But it lost.
But then
luster.
you hit the late 2000s recession. It fell flat. And then look at it. Oh my God, look at this,
how'd
David.
you find? Oh,
Holy
you went
shit.
good job. You went to the
So, David,
Look
what
at the
year is
Hooters.
this?
Look at the Hooters. That's.
This is 2012, July 2012.
But how far can you take it? I mean, the Hooters was there for a
2008.
long time.
I think
2007.
Hooters was even.
So there was a Thai restaurant in that building over there that they demoed upstairs. There was the
David,
dueling pianos.
go down the street. Thai. What's the
not
name
letting
of
me
it?
go down there.
That's before Google Maps.
You know what you should do? You should turn around from where you were in that intersection and look back at Water Street.
Oh yeah, and show
That- Well, and then here's another point, right? Like the towers of Channelside, that development.
Yeah.
Today, if a developer owned that parcel, they would have never cut the street grid and done the site work like that.
And would the city have even let them?
And would the city have even let them? Whereas back then in the 2000s, that was like kind
It's
of.
funny you're saying
thing.
this. I feel like you and I've had this conversation because I can't stand that you can't cut through the towers to get to Sparkman's.
Well, and
You have
what
to
do
go
you?
around it.
I think your point, just a minute ago about like they should have done more retail. You've got these ground floor parking garages. Is there a chance to correct some of those? Let's just say mistakes that no one saw coming. I think the whole idea in the early 2000s was like, let's get something going, right? And
Which had merit.
Which
I'm giving
absolutely had
I'm
merit.
giving those pioneers and those developers and the guys that did Grand Central at Kennedy and the guys that did
It was
Sky
a different
Point,
culture. Let's be real.
and a lot of guts, a lot of courage. They still signed on some serious debt.
What year is
Everyone
this,
talks
David?
a lot about development, but someone still has to sign on that recourse debt,
Right.
And that still ruins a lot of people's lives.
So this is from 2012. Look at that. This is when they did the advertisement on the top portion of the street card, not on the entire thing.
I saw one of your
I'm not
episodes where it's like
gonna
a
go
giant
deeper.
billboard. It's like a giant billboard.
Yeah, I got a little shit for that, but it's okay.
It's still really cool.
Would you even do Meridian Avenue the same way, right? It's like, I think the whole point of what we're talking about is that cities evolve. And, you talked about how Davis Islands is a success or isn't a success or whatever it is. Like when my dad lived on Davis Islands in the 1960s, he said every other house was a vacant piece of land.
Yeah.
That was developed in the 1920s. So think about the decades where there was nothing happening.
That's right.
And my grandfather bought their family home. He was already a politician by then, which you really don't make any money now. I guess you make sidebar money. That's kind of the gig now. But back then you didn't make shit. Like you didn't make anything. And he was still able to buy a house on Davis Islands. He told me he paid $25,000 for their house on Davis Islands. And it was on a canal.
That's wild.
So what you said about some of the prices of these homes, right? I mean, people are paying to live on the water on Davis Islands a lot of money. But it's taken 100 years for that neighborhood to
And there's two things going on. There's natural inflation, but then there's the relationship between the average annual earning of an employee relative to home prices. And that latter metric is what economists and politicians and developers and everyone should really thinking about, affordability. It was something like, and I'm going to butcher this stat, but it was something like 50 years ago with an average year of salary 4 years and you could buy a house. Okay, 4 years of your salary. So if you made, I don't know, to this example, if you made $7,500 a year in salary, you could buy a house for $25,000. Now, the people are making, 70, 80,000, but the house on Davis Island's 1.5.
Right.
So do that math, and the affordability, and that's a real. It's probably a different discussion to go down.
That's an entire that is a whole podcast right there. But no, to your point, I think it's I'll bring it back to this. I'll do a big loop right here. This is the reason to me why it's important that a place like the Ybor district is successful in its diversity in terms of the different businesses, the different types of people, all having the opportunity to live in one place, is because it can all support itself. Yep. If I'm a young person and I'm making good money, which is 60, 70, 80, that's decent. Yep. Okay. I think, so I graduated college a little over 10 years ago, and we were making like 50 grand, 55 grand. That was kind of average. If you were making like 80 or something like that, you crushed it out of school. Out of school. Yeah. Now today you're not buying a house making that kind of money really at all.
It's fascinating.
But if there's a district with a multitude of retail availability, a multitude of units, and everyone's kind of living together and collaborating. Maybe David and I can start a business and open up a little coffee shop in an easier manner.
Yep.
Right. If you look at the traditional development pattern of not only Tampa, but really any American city, it's going to take a serious lease and serious capital and serious commitment and the space and the parking and all that to figure out to get going. Whereas the Ybor district has this density factor. And we got a little ways to go to fill in, but it's like there's a chance where the younger, creative, ambitious person has a better opportunity in a place like that rather than, I'll use the example, Fish Hawk Ranch again, right? To go compete on a lease with Buffalo Wild Wings or whatever it may be out there, if that makes sense.
Because the artist, the creative, the forward thinking, the new generation, dare I say, the kind of gig economy, some of those thinkers cluster because David's creating ideas at the coffee shop. There's someone next to him that's like-minded, and that like-mindedness appreciates places like Ybor more because they're inspired. I've been inspired by it since the first time I went there, and even now I feel no different when I'm in the district. And keeping that vibe is why running the bricks, and we're going to turn that around. We need all of Tampa's support, and they're going to notice big food changes, big programming with a live music, different hospitality culture, expanding the hours back out. But keeping those institutions is so key to keeping the culture that makes us and David and everyone want to live there.
Would you ever think about leaving Ybor City, David? Or are you locked in?
I'm locked in for now.
For now.
I think he has the kids.
I was going to say, didn't you move? But you moved units. We don't need to get into the details. I blew your first one out of the water. I won't do that again, I promise you.
You gave us a try.
Yeah. Unit number.
He's getting a love mail.
I don't even know. Don't tell me.
I'll probably
but there's more coming online. And I think that when young people make the decision today who make $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year, when they go to make a decision to move to a place, they're going to be left with only a few set of options. Whereas our grandparents had many more options of not only location, but availability of ownership, right?
Yep.
So when young people are looking at places to live, they're going to not want to be isolated, right? They're going to want to live close by to collaborate, and they're going to want to be in an active place where they can get amenities. They're going to be very amenity driven is what I'm finding.
It really is.
It's like, hey, if I'm going to spend this money on rent, I got to have a place to live. I don't want to have to get in my car every time I go somewhere. I want to have the availability to have access to goods and services right out my door.
Yeah. 90% of how I live in urban Tampa and have lived when I lived in New York City or Miami or different places, it's all about 80% of the time you can stay in your district, you get that time back and you get that quality of life and you de-stress. We can choose our stress in other areas that we create, but it's not in logistics, sitting in traffic for 40 minutes. David, we put in 1215 East 6th Avenue. This is an office building that we're working on right now, renovating. and I'm super proud of it because it's going to keep the exterior brick shell and the wrought iron.
Fantastic.
But the inside, we've ripped out the '90s office with drop ceilings, fluorescent lighting to the point where, and all the sheetrock on the walls, we ripped everything off to get back down to the block and brick and the exposed trusses. And so we'll be done on the inside of this in 4 or 5 months. And then what's going to happen is, so we talked about the culture of the artists and the creatives getting together. We talked about the retail. We talked about the housing. The last component of true live, work, play is you have to have some office, or going back 100 years where they rolled the cigars, or they did the labor, or they make the bricks,
right,
for example. And so this is kind of that modern day labor force. And for me, moving my team here and the bunch of other small businesses and mid-sized businesses that we're going to move in, the creatives or tech companies or art, like whoever's going to come in here is going to have 4 things. They're going to appreciate the finishes. They're going to appreciate walkability. You guys have a little space in there. We're joking about taking the pod to on top of the bricks. But having that office in there, if you live in the area and you have your creative office there and you have your retail life, that's how things were 100 years ago. And we're just reverting back to common sense, quality of life.
These commitments here, you buying these buildings and improving them, do you from a like development real estate risk perspective, how do you juggle the availability of space in the district? I mean, looking at all of this, it seems like there's quite a bit for lease, right? I mean, there's a lot of inventory. Now, you have described there's a lot of attention, a lot of conversations, a lot of businesses coming in. But it seems like there's always a bet to this, right? Always. And so
with real estate and business.
Real estate and business.
Yeah.
But you clearly have a confidence level about betting on this district that people will see, I think, the same thing we both see about this particular area.
When I was at USF, I was doing as a VIP manager, as a VIP concierge business that partnered with entertainment nightlife and brought affluent customers to the district. Early 2000s, I was real young in school doing this nights and weekends to build this little promotions business that I used to fix houses. At the time, I would explain to people, even back then, like, hey, look, if you come to Ybor, instead of like wherever it's Mangroves or South Tampa or wherever you can go, this is the benefits of being there. The playbook is the same. It's just a couple decades later, telling the same stories, just a little bit more resources and a little bit. Like you have energy, wisdom, and liquidity as an entrepreneur. And as you get older, your energy tapes off, and if you're lucky, you pick up a little bit of wisdom and liquidity. But it's no difference. And what's neat about it was with visionaries like Shaw and Kettler and PPF and Bank Ozarks, and then all the other groups that are investing in now, even the original investors in Ybor that bought decades ago and still own or sit there smiling based on appreciation.
Yeah.
These are all the visionaries. And what's going to happen is, as Miami, well, you can first talk about the migration out of certain parts of the country and into Florida, and then as Miami's unapproachable, unaffordable. It really is. It's got more expensive than New York. That's just going to keep helping Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
God, leaves 1,000 people a month coming to like the metric to Tampa alone. Not the state of Florida. Everyone talked about the metrics to Florida of migration was like 1,000 a day,
right,
at some point. But like now it's the monthly metrics, and then you start breaking that down and figuring out where people are going to live, and just continuing to bet that if you create really good atmosphere, you create that really good product. Mm-hmm. And so there is inventory to your point. But there's not that much inventory in Ybor actually. And the office market is surprisingly tight. And so our forecast is that we can invest real dollars into making the inside of this modern age, and then have the historical shell, and that people are going to pay, small businesses are going to pay a fair rent.
Right.
Because their culture. Like if you guys have been in my office, David, glass,
right,
cool concrete, nice furniture, music, lounge in the background. You're creating that people are happy. When people are happy, they do good. They interact better with each other. When they interact better with each other, it's a team environment. Then you're building a real core and a real, like we joke about Navy SEAL squad, you're having each other back. And the next thing you know, your space and your location has improved everyone's quality of life so much that it then becomes a good business decision as well as just the right thing to do.
Yeah, and look at Grove Financial's commitment to the district and signing that lease.
So
They get
neat.
it. I mean, that's
They
a
get
big
it.
business that says our employees, like we're taking this bet, and they know their employees, of course,
Yeah.
but they know that their employees are going to want to live in that office building, go downstairs for a Pilates
So they're in the old
class.
Masonite. In the interim, they're in the Masonite building while the 100,000 square foot building in Gasworks goes vertical, and they're taking the anchor tenant in there, which was such a huge move for so many reasons.
And then the next question is again, like I kind of asked this earlier about a particular area of residential. Like I would imagine some of maybe the executives or some of the management level, some of the people that have those higher end salaries
Yeah.
that are going to work in Gasworks, they're going to be like, dude, I need to buy a place here. Like this is so cool.
So cool.
So cool. They're going to hit a
It's
workout
gonna help
class,
all
go to
that.
work, they get lunch. Like
And look, Google Maps isn't even updating, but right now the parking structure, E1 through E3, all that is all vertical. It's so impressive how quickly that's gone up from last in 1 year.
the nucleus.
Have topping out a lot of that. And you're right, the people from Grow that are coming to the district, and that's real leadership. Recruiting Grow to come to Ybor is huge. And you look at the sheriff deal.
Yeah.
What a what an awesome deal to put together.
Well, and I think this sort of culture trend of what employers recognize in their employees and what they want,
Yeah.
right? I don't think that I know that didn't exist in the early 2000s.
It didn't.
And so that's probably why those developments ended up the way they did.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately were unsuccessful, probably mostly due to the recession and the economic conditions. And there was a long down period there. Like I remember when I graduated high school in 2010. And so the recession hit, maybe junior year, something like that. And Obama came onto the scene, and there was definitely a level of excitement with him and his policies about who we are as a nation. But I remember like living in Sarasota at the time, which was an area that might be the epicenter of the recession, with some of those bedroom community Florida markets.
Yeah.
I couldn't get
Southwest
a job at
Florida got
Macy's.
crushed.
Like I put in applications in so many places, and there nothing was going on.
I remember
and that-
Lehman Brothers failed. The headline of the New York Times and then even the Tampa Times, Lehman Brothers failed. Like pretty much all that ran that. I remember sitting in the Colliers International office, a commercial broker in West Shore, like being there all excited on the phones, talking
Yeah,
to people, making
doing the
deals in their
thing.
career. You're leading this, and like the senior guys in the commercial real estate big deal brokerage firms, they're like, we're going home. Literally, people weren't showing up for a few years. The economy had stopped that much.
Wow.
The industry leaders in development, investment, banking, brokerage, architecture, those architecture firms, see, I was barely in the industry at this point. Architecture firms would let go 70% of their staff. Construction companies, 70% of their staff.
Holy shit.
Categorically, just like because there was nothing going on. The capital markets had almost frozen. And that, by the way, is a lot what the government's, I'm not going to get into political, macroeconomic discussions, but is trying to do is avoid things that catastrophically shut off the government or shut off the economy. Because in 2008, we were very close to going to even worse of a recession.
Well,
Yeah.
that is a whole different show, but I think that we're on a train that can't be stopped. And although we've tried multiple times throughout this country's history to mitigate these downturns, including with COVID, that was the injection of cash during COVID. Talk about a double-edged sword. The inflation
Double-edged
that
sword.
has led to the money supply being increased, what that's done to our business,
Yeah.
rents, good, real estate prices going up is a good thing if you own real estate, but if you're in the business of acquiring real estate, it makes that
So
part of the
hard.
job difficult. It really is this balancing act that I think they've done an okay job in the later years of calling it a soft landing. I think that they've done decently at that, but I don't know the right answer. That's a whole different economic debate.
Economist.
I studied economics in college, so I'm kind of a nerd for it.
Yeah,
And
it's fascinating.
it
science.
is fascinating. And when you break it down to a little market like Tampa or Ybor, it's interesting to
It's a
think about
philosophical
too.
argument: is should you let the free markets run themselves, let people learn from their own mistakes because the bank goes bankrupt, or do you stop the bank from going bankrupt because you're worried that it'll be such a reset that it redoes it? And that's the two philosophies, is how much intervention and how much free market. We've talked about this before. Certainly in a big asset. We're in an asset bubble of valuations, but we've got a really strong federal government, but the debt is really high, and so you have to create more value as an economy nationally each year than you're creating debt and interest carry.
The iPhone 25. That's our way out of it. Really, though, I mean, the only way out of, to use the word out of this, is to create new and better things and to grow.
Innovation is the only way out of it. And you talk about innovation and technology and the concept of robots, of us all having our own robot in our lifetime.
That's real.
At $25,000, that more than your iPhone, you'll have a robot following you. And what can that do to overall productivity? And can that fix macroeconomic challenges? The only example I'd say, Bezos has been in Miami yelling that he wants to get with the city, and Francis Suarez and their city's leadership, the ex-mayor, they're forward thinking in Miami for some time during COVID, and they want to create AI where you put your permit in, and within an hour you get back a report of your issues and what you need to do. You go fix that, you resubmit it, and you get through the permit process a lot faster. So when you talk about innovating out of macroeconomic challenges, examples like that come up. But
yeah, and I think that's probably the path forward. I had on JC Hutchinson with the city. He's the chief building official. He was ultra forward thinking. I was very impressed. Great. Yeah,
that's huge
because he talked about those sort of things. He talked about technologies. He talked about growth. He talked about all of that, which I was really encouraged by, because I think that is a real solution.
Is there job and then the other side of the sword? Is there job loss associated with that, or is it repositioning the types of jobs?
His position was no, because you'll need human oversight for, whatever time frame it takes. You're going to have AI review plans, but ultimately a human will have to stamp them and sign off and put their name on it.
That's right.
And so you'll always sort of have that. There's going to be integration of technology. That's going to take humans to integrate technology, to train other humans about how to use the technology. Who's going to get the messaging and the marketing out to the public about that new service? So, I think his position was no in the short term, but I think we all know at some point down the line, there's going to be probably job loss, but people will shift.
If you can increase the speed, though, of something like a permit getting put out, and encourage more businesses to come to Tampa than another market, you don't have an option. You have to compete on that front.
Yeah.
And you have to try and get in front of the Miamis in that example.
I think it goes back to what we talked about with younger people or people with less means that are creative and are ambitious and do want to be a part of this and do want to open up a little bakery.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? If you can get your plans approved more quickly and there's less red tape and there's less of a headache you have to go through and potentially less capital, that's a larger pool of people that have the ability to start businesses. Therefore, that's our entire foundation.
It's an abundance mindset. It's a very American concept of support everyone. We all grow, we all win. Make these investments and trust that things are going to change. The world's changing exponentially fast right now, and it's
I was thinking that last
night. It's a lot to deal with. But if you believe in abundance mentality, that there's plenty of good out there, and the people and the business and the change, it's all going to be for the better. If you keep your mind on that, it's very powerful, because then you manifest and you believe. Another half your brain you don't use gets you in these positions. Like, it's scary, signing on the debt or his business, it's scary, but I just believe it's going to be okay. It's a lot better than the scarcity mentality.
I think we're at a point where there's not a way to predict. We really are at this exponential curve right on the upswing. Like Trump, I saw a video of a reporter asking Trump in the Oval Office about Cuba, like, is Cuba next? and it's really funny, but it's funny and scary because I can't believe we're only 12 weeks into the new year. I mean,
This much.
it's
2026.
things are happening super, super quick. And he's like, Cuba. Like, he's like, Cuba. Yeah, Cuba's next, blah, blah. And it's like,
His response was so
holy shit.
cavalier.
Yeah. Like, we're doing this type thing. And I was literally, last night I was thinking, we're at the curve. Like, we've all known, kind of growing up in the 2000s, watching the technology shift, the implementation of AI. Like, during COVID, AI didn't exist. Here we are 5-6 years later, you've got full-blown AI, learning models, video, etc. We've all thought about that exponential curve, but we've only seen it practice in an iPhone or in these video or whatever technology. But now it's like you feel the exponential nature of the moment, including in the political sphere and international, I mean, all of it.
And they're using it. Yeah, they're using it in wartime information. All these things.
Of it. But that brings me to innovation, because I do want to talk about technology and innovation and people being creative. Because this district, Ybor, I've seen in the Business Journal, gather some really interesting tenancy. And then with TGH doing a new medical district on the east side, I believe there's some defense contractor businesses sort of in that middle area. And then Gasworks getting, I think, a TGH innovation center. Palantir is going to have an office inside that. So you're going to start to see these technology firms, defense contractors, these different companies get a foothold in the district and create, these technologies.
Because they prefer to be where culture and entertainment and history and walkability and grid systems and
like what
and
have we
roosters
left off the
and cobblestone.
Here's like the question,
all
right?
on the table.
Here's the thought. What have we left off the table? Right?
For urban Tampa or for Ybor?
For this district, Ybor, I mean, we could talk generally Tampa, but it's like you've mentioned about these cool operators coming here from larger markets that see the district as very interesting and they want to be a part of it. The Michelin guy, Tokyo Swim, this really cool concept, mise en place coming in, very high-end restaurant. We've talked about some of the Ybor institutions, the bricks, which you now own, which you've committed to not changing, but sharpening.
There's nothing that's going to stop the momentum. The only thing that can stop the momentum is people's preconceived notions and not being willing to change in their way, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But this comes from a guy that's committing his life strategy and business and whole team is all behind making a district better and buying buildings, signing on debt and putting in the hard work, 15 hours a day. There's nothing that can stop the momentum. There's a select group of people. And look, to be clear, like right now, the evolution, the renaissance, it's still happening. There's still little pockets of uncomfortable and crime and those things are being cleaned out. But that's not a question of if, it's a question of when.
Yeah.
And it's all backed by, from the range of new great creative residents coming to the district all the way through the other end. You're coming about Palantir and people that working there.
So
and
that's what I'm sort of
that's
asking.
all innovation.
It's like,
where else would you want to be in the next chapter?
Right. And it doesn't matter if you're a technology company, if you're in the finance world, if you're a restaurateur, you want to be a part of a place that has that diversity, the mix of use and the action and just the cool vibe is my whole point.
West Shore was a great office district for Tampa. It still is, but particularly prolific in the 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah. What now?
Yeah. Well, yeah. What's next?
And look at Andrew Wright, though, who has a vision for it. I mean, he's been on the show before to describe that sort of future vision. He's been acquiring property. He's been putting his concepts.
They are renovating that district. And I think it's at 15, 16, like when I stopped tracking, it was 15, 16 million square feet of office in West Shore versus downtown. That was like 8 to 10 million, which I think a lot of Tampanians don't recognize.
Yeah, more people work in West Shore than in downtown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to your point though, will Palantir go there? Okay, I've got a good one for you. Pfizer.
Right.
They went next to Armature Works and a surprise move and a beautiful office building. But why'd they do that? Because they want to recruit the best and the brightest. And the best and the brightest want to be able to create a lot of value for a couple hours. I'm spent. I'm going to go down to Armature and walk
Right.
along the Riverwalk. And the Riverwalk you and I have discussed. I've met with City of Jacksonville leadership multiple times as a Tampanian, entrepreneur developer up there, and telling them like, hey, look, you guys need to finish your Riverwalk. It can't be a few different sections. It has to be right. Because here's what I literally watched and witnessed in Tampa when I lived at Sky Point and Element, and that all finishes out with Curtis Hickson Park. And then, I've discussed before that going up into Ybor and then going further up the river. But that's why Pfizer selected where they did. And that would have been a West Shore. The point I'm making, that would have been a West Shore deal 25 years ago.
Right.
No question.
Right.
And instead they selected Tampa Heights, which is another really cool corridor, going from the Big Blue, the police the police RFP, going from there all the way up to the YMCA. That corridor is, I think, short of Ybor and its rich 100-year-old plus history, that corridor is Tampa's next most impressive, cultural district.
Hopefully
The
with a
yellow brick
streetcar
road. Yeah,
line
streetcar
riding up that.
It'll help. They call it the yellow brick road as you take Franklin up.
Yeah, massive opportunity there. Do you think the Riverwalk was that big of a catalyst? I mean, to say to a municipality it's critical they complete the whole thing?
So I had meetings with City of Jacksonville leadership and Mayor Curry on the previous, and then when I'm in there more recently with Mayor Deegan and some of the city council members, I really think that Riverwalk infrastructure is huge. And if you come to Tampa now and you're on a 3-4 day week, 3-4 night trip, you're gonna what are things you're gonna see? You're gonna make a trip to Ybor. You're gonna hit the Riverwalk. You're gonna go to Columbia. What are the things you're gonna see if you're on a 4-day trip in Tampa? Make it to Davis Island, maybe make it to Harbor Island, perhaps Jackson's. You should.
Dale Mabry's got some establishments.
I was gonna say for after business work meetings, Dale Mabry. But that's no true joke. When I was starting commercial real estate 20 years ago, people would fly in, go to the airport, meet downtown. They'd be asking me. They'd be staying at West Shore. I'd be like, "What do I do now, Josh? After dinner, like a professional work meeting?" And the jokes start flying about Dale Mabry.
That's why. Yeah, man, that's a real thing.
But that was part of my challenge and my opportunity. Is that was part of Tampa's brand.
Yes.
When I was in commercial real estate,
Right.
on you had Burns, you had Odyssey.
Yeah, man.
Well, go Columbia. You gotta go to Columbia. Those were the big three. Now the big three are like the Riverwalk, okay, it's
Right.
Sparkman's, Water Street. Now
A little more
Gasworks,
family friendly these
Ybor.
days.
Well, and that's the other huge strategy, going back to Ybor, is finding that balance of where it was. It's been a nightlife district for some number of decades, and taking it back to keep that, but you're gonna have a daytime engagement of all these different cheeseology, whether they're cheese classes or Tijan. We help bring those businesses Tijan to the district. They did perfume, and you do perfume daytime classes. By having that daytime engagement, you have to be very thoughtful and intentional about daytime engagement. And I think that's one of the things that the project's doing extremely well. And that takes a long time between vision and execution. It takes a lot of people executing on that vision to make it a reality. But once you do it, the natural markets are going to keep that nightlife entertainment, but it'll find its right balance. And then you have the daytime. The next thing you know, you got it.
So you see a vision even decades down the road where there always will be some sort of nightlife component to 7th Avenue. Maybe not in its current iteration, but the ability to go to a nightclub till 2 a.m. on 7th Avenue.
My opinion is just a small piece of the Ybor Renaissance, but in my opinion, as someone that moved to Tampa and lived in Ybor immediately and has been advocating it ever since, I think it'd be a disservice to Tampa and Ybor to not keep some of the magic that is call it the parade culture. Gasparilla, Guavaween,
Yeah.
the energy out there. You could say a lot. Okay, after midnight, No, I've heard the saying, nothing good happens after midnight. My father actually said that to me a bunch of times growing up. But I was at the Bricks after we closed on it, and we took out these big pieces of glass to engage with the street. And it's 8 o'clock, and the parade's going on, and everyone was peaceful and behaved, and they're throwing beads, and they're eating and having food and running around the street.
Yeah, man.
And like people are coming up to me, just like from out of town. They're there and they're loving, they're digging it. And so yeah, I think it would be a disservice to not envision some level of entertainment staying at certain parts of the district, for the next 100 years.
That's a beautiful thought. Yeah, because like I described earlier, running into my dad or whatever it may be, it really is I think the sort of like pirate / parade down and dirty kind of thing is a part of Tampa's identity. I mean, we get a little too excited sometimes, for sure.
We do.
And it comes with
Gasparilla Day Parade at 10 in the morning. People, struggling on the street. That's not appropriate. The new generation carrying jugs. That's not appropriate.
There's some prominent people slugging down milk punch.
By the way, on Bayshore, the most prolific houses on Bayshore are throwing their own curated parties. So it's kind of cool. It's a part of the culture.
It is. In the boat parade with the football team, it's in the hockey, right?
Yeah.
It's like partying, frankly,
after we won the Super Bowl.
Part of this city's culture. It really is.
Tom Brady throwing the trophy and the guy catching it.
Tom Brady comes to Tampa, he turns into a different animal.
That's a part of the culture. So
him stumbling off the boat, like after drinking all
he's Mr. America, literally.
Yes.
Clean cut, nothing but business for 20 years, comes from New England.
Yes.
Bill Belichick and the most finely tuned organization in modern history. Maybe Apple computers. There's a few other like institutions that are as strong as but that is so look, I could argue this both ways. I was thinking about my statement as I thoughtfully tried to advocate for some entertainment staying in Ybor. The counter argument is if you go back 100 years and the goal is to bring it back to its roots in the village, there was still some of that. It was just a lot less. But like I've seen on your podcast before, the images of Gasparilla from the earlier 1900s.
It's always been here. And by the way, back in like the early 1900s, they were still doing all that kind of shit. They were just doing it in the tunnels of Ybor City, and they were hiding it from out in the open. We've
Live by, what's the show, Live by Night?
Yeah, with Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck. And he gets off. He takes the train from like Chicago or Boston. He gets off in his beige suit in Ybor City. And it's like,
look at John Cooper with the Lightning after the big win. He's got the cigar in his mouth, walking around. I think the sort of like the mobster party bootlegger swagger thing is a part of this like party pirate thing we have. Like let's be real. You put it very eloquently, by the way. I thought you explained that perfectly. Like let's recognize that party culture is absolutely a part of the overall city culture. Let's not pretend that on 7th Avenue there's these problem establishments and that's an isolated thing. No. That's a part of really the city's culture. Yeah. It's just probably been too focused on that for a few decades, and so it's taken some of the connotation of what the district is and geared it towards one thing, which it's not. And now that we're diversifying as a city and more uses are coming into the district, some people are thinking they're losing something when really we're getting a more original intention, which is a mix of everything, right? It's like if you could go to Ybor and go to a beautiful dinner and then go dancing and drinking and blow it out of the water, that's a successful night as long as you stay safe, right? As long as it's enforced and you stay safe.
Everyone
I think
drinks water, you get home safely.
The whole thing.
Those memories forged in that night.
Come on.
You'll be, long living.
And most people I talk to don't want to lose that.
No, I don't think you want to lose it. It takes me to the concept of people doing some yoga and meditation. In 2026, we're all going through our phones. We're all running fast. Next thing, as quick as you literally get emails out, text, people expect you to respond right away on all these devices and all these platforms. But then with meditation or yoga, everything in the universe needs to find balance. And I think that's all we're really talking about with Ybor and with Tampa and these events. Just finding balance.
Great analogy.
Bring it back to that balanced phase where the economy, isn't 70% nightlife and 10%, illicit and 20% everything else. Let's bring it back to a reasonable balance.
Did your dad tell you nothing good happens after midnight, before or after you became a nightclub promoter?
That's hilarious. I think I was young, and I think that my response when I was at USF and I was in that business was, well, I'm making money on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and because I take my business so serious, I'm not consuming the substance. So therefore, it's like a hedge against it, because I wouldn't, I took that serious and wouldn't, drink, and you stay away from the staff. You make better life decisions when you do that and see things for what they are.
Yeah,
it was just really an economic opportunity to me. I was just so ecstatic to being able to create a business in the district. And so every day when I'd show up, I'd like 8th and 15th, I'd see these old buildings, the cobblestone, I'd park there, I'm walking around, the roosters are going, the sun's setting. Like, all right, this is cool. This is a cool Friday night. Mm-hmm. I'm here to make money versus, I've been to Ybor many times, entertaining and having other good benefits out of the Ybor weekend night. A
lot of distractions out there.
Yeah, a lot of distractions. You have to stay focused. But I Garrett, I truly had a cigar box with cash, because at the end of the night, you're cutting up the register. You make a percentage of the revenue for doing the VIP bookings and all that. And I'd help count out $25,000, $30,000 for the overall establishment as a member of management. And then I'd get my cut from the VIP register. And then, so I would go to, it was Wachovia, had acquired the other bank I'm forgetting, and then Wells Fargo bought Wachovia, and I went in there with a box of cash with this Ybor cigar box, and I put it down, and they're like asking me all these questions, and I must be, I'm 19, 20 years old. I know because I wasn't legally of age to drink until I moved to Australia for study abroad, came back, and then all of a sudden I was 21. So working in the bars before that, and I recognized that they were asking me questions that I didn't know, but it was like a federal tax question, like, oh, you're over $10,000 in cash. This is that. I'm like, actually, I'm gonna take my box back.
Holy shit!
And go. And I ran into a gentleman, Steve Yatiriaga, who developed. I talked to David about this. He developed a project on 5th and 20th in the district. And it was kind of a forward-thinking concept. It was on the railroad. It's over behind Columbia. And he developed this 3-story mixed use. Yeah, there you go, 5th and so right at that intersection, that whole quadrant, he built that project on the right, and he had that unit up top, and his family business was downstairs. I lived all the way, David. If you go down by the new really cool, shout out to this Kava place on the left. If you haven't been in there, it's a super neat daytime vibe. It's my buddy Ian Rashid's truck on the right. So I had this unit. I lived up here, and I met Steve around the time that I had these businesses going, and I was working on properties in the area. And I was like, hey, I want to invest in your development. True story. Guy, he's a Cuban developer, had businesses in Cuba, like,
real deal.
He's a real deal. We used the word gangsters earlier, and like you and I have a lot of respect for these kind of guys, especially the ones with multiple family histories, going back to like with your father, your family. I mean, your family's been running with these guys since, gangsters was a more legitimate business. Well, like Steve's a gangster, and I'm like telling him, hey, I'm gonna learn how to invest in this development. And he only had the foundation poured, and he showed me that day. I kind of won him over because it helped that I had a box of cash. Literally, I had the box of cash with me. I'm like, how do I invest in this? Because back then, cash worked differently, especially 20 years ago in the economy. And he shows me the tunnels that they're having to deal with from a structural perspective. And he's like, son, I'm afraid to call it son, but however you reference me, you sure you want to be in development and investment? Absolutely. The idea of capital, land, people, infrastructure all coming together and pouring and building these buildings. Like when I grew up in Daytona Beach, which is a very strange economy in itself, but I've watched them build these high rises and pour the concrete. And I just thought it was so cool. Riding my bike, I had Legos even before that. So when Steve's showing me this deal, and he's explained to me like the development budget and the pro forma, which is a new term, and they're selling condos at I think 180 a piece, dropped down to $140 in the recession, and now they're 300 sort of thing. He's explaining to me these economics. He's telling me about the structural issues that he had. I just thought it was really, really cool.
Was that your first taste of development, meeting him and checking this project out?
So at that time, I had a residential, I had like some other houses that I was renovating. I was doing one house at a time, painting the walls, doing new track light, new floors, and trying to rent it for more than the neighbor's house to get a payback period on those new investments. But Steve was one of the first ones that was like a pre-development investment where he's like, you'll buy a condo. I'm like, no, I want to invest on the developer side. Like, Did
he let you, or what happened?
Yeah, and a very Ybor like deal he did. And Ybor still handshaking. I said, you pay with. I don't get anyone in trouble. I guess it's 20 years later, but I remember showing up at one point, and they're like buying materials. If you pay with cash, you get a different price. You pay with cash, get a different price than if you pay with check.
So you did I think it's okay to talk about 20 years.
Yeah.
So you literally did a deal where you gave him a stack of cash in exchange for an ownership interest in the development?
You're insightful. I'm not gonna put anyone on the spot like that. But yeah, he taught me a lot about it, and we made I call it a pre-development investment.
Very cool.
Pre-development investment, and
and this is again when you were like 19, working the club, saving cash. I was
going to USF. So the weird thing is, I'd ride up to USF to go to school, and I'd come back to live in the district, and then I'd walk over to 7th to work at the old 1509. It was one of my accounts or clients for the VIP concierge business. Twilight that became Lotus, and then more recently Honeypot, to give you some scale of the location, and then for a little while Club Prana. That, by the way, like actually if we're talking about institutions,
yeah, honestly,
that longest standing nightclub, I'd say maybe, a true nightclub in Tampa. There's other obviously alcohol establishments that do really well, been around for a while.
Yeah.
But Prana was that.
But it sounds like you've always had an eye for real estate. Growing up in Daytona Beach, you said you'd watch these buildings go up.
And I go back to, I remember building Legos and thinking like, this is really neat. And then you'd see, when you build a high rise on the beach in Miami, in Daytona or Miami for that matter, you have to really focus on the sand. And I was fascinated by how they do the borings, and they pour the certain type of concrete sand mix down really far to get it to level, and then they'd go vertical. But the real question is, when you're a developer and you're the nucleus, you're the owner, you have all these different architect, GC, tenants, residents of your mixed use, consultants, all these things coming together, and you're the nucleus trying to figure out how to lead this team to victory is the only way to think about it. And everything that you do every day is totally different because you're adapting to whatever challenge the project or challenge the team, and kind of adapting and working off that.
All while risking capital.
And
making a calculated bet.
And if you're signing on personal recourse debt, that's what really I think differentiates some entrepreneurs and developers. I know so many developers that I watched in 2008 to 2013 lose a lot. There was a gentleman in Orlando I knew that took his life off of a high rise that he built. And I bought half a dozen bank deals between 10 and 15, calling on banks while at Collier's. Now I was working there, working on kind of net lease and capital raise and some medical office and different urban stuff. But for personal stuff, I was calling on banks, asking them if I could buy in their distressed properties. And I learned a lot from doing that, because I saw a lot of guys lose their whole life back to the bank after 2008. They got over their leverage. They didn't have the liquidity. And when, as I think Warren Buffett says, when the tide goes down, you see who's got their pants off, who's buttoned up, who's got their pants buttoned up. And so through that, we bought property in Haines City, 11 acres off of I-4. 5 acres in Orlando, a 5-4 in Celebration. Just went after these different kind of bank deals. In South Florida, went after it was a grocery and turned it into a 30,000 square foot building that was on Florida Bank's roll for $1.5 million. And we bought that and turned it into a food distribution for Cheney and a meal delivery company that I invested in. But the point is you learn a lot about what happens when recourse debt hits, because it's the ultimate regulator.
What's
it'll
recourse
humble
versus
anyone.
non-recourse debt?
Great question, Garrett. Most entrepreneurs that are starting out, you have to have recourse debt because your credit's not strong enough in order to get the asset, which means that if the LLC defaults, they can come after you individually. Versus non-recourse debt means that if the LLC defaults, the lender can go after all the assets in the LLC, but not you individually.
I guess you'd have to be a pretty big dog in order for a bank to write one of those loans now, a non-recourse debt loan.
You can be a big dog. I mean, the more common way I'd say to think about it is that when an asset is stabilized and it's lower risk and it's cash producing, you're going to see more non-recourse loans on existing income properties that are stable. On a construction loan, for example, using this case study, where you're borrowing, you're buying land, you're designing, your entitlement risk, your permit risk, your construction risk, your 2-year economic risk. Those ones are more typically recourse.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at the end of the day, there's two. That's one distinction. The other distinction is loan to value. If you want to maximize the loan to value by borrowing more money and bringing less equity on a $10 million deal, you'd rather borrow 7 and bring 3 of equity versus borrow 5 and bring 5. You can still do construction loans with only $5 million versus $7 million, but that would be non-recourse. But you have to bring a lot more equity. So your statement intuitively is correct. You either be a real big dog.
Yeah.
I think that, if I recall, it's been a long time, but when Water Street launched, one of the really, talk about gangster things they did is they were launching the project all cash.
So gangster.
Right? And then later pulled out the debt.
What a bet.
That's not for everybody.
P.S. What a bet that
And you talk about
was.
visionary moves and seeing that. And it's funny because I've told you this story before. When I would jog from Ybor to the aquarium, I'd look at that land. And I'd look at the Victory Lofts building I showed you earlier and be like, well, that's a well-located piece of land. Well, Mr. Vinnick and his buddies, came in there and said, yep, bought everything around there. And what an amazing play.
So ambitious and forward-thinking.
Yeah.
And specifically to bet on the quality, I thought was so interesting. Like I asked Jeff Vinnick when he was on the show, why did you take it that far in terms of the infrastructure, the streetscape? I mean, the mature oak trees, like the foliage, they spent
the vegetation off the overhang,
all the
buildings,
above. Like they spent
the cladding.
They spent way more extra money than they had to make it all work.
Make it successful.
And he said, this market had never experienced excellence before, and I knew if I had provided it, it would pay it, and the market would prove itself. And you go there today, and it's like freaking packed. And he was right.
It is.
And I think, they had a COVID influx, which he disagreed. He didn't think COVID had anything to do with it, which is fair. Whatever.
It was the icing on the cake. But the cake's still a really good cake.
Absolutely. And there's a bunch of different factors, and Brady, and everything.
Yeah, and it went from 3,500 to 5,500 rents within a year, 2 bedrooms.
But
but they built a good product, is your point.
Yes.
An exceptionally good product.
Well designed. Yes.
Which, if I'm going to tie in and plug Casa Ybor and some of the stuff going on with Gasworks,
I was going
to
wrap it too.
Yeah, that quality is a reoccurring theme. I had a lunch with James Nozart in Q4, something like this, when we were talking about Water Street. And they're talking about like the cladding on the side of the parking structure, and just like these panels alone costing several $1 million to have like the right architectural. And there's clearly a lot of debate of how many millions of dollars do we want to make a parking structure on a non-critical side look better. And for the most part, as you can tell by that project, they tripled down on all categories. And what ended up happening, sure, COVID and Tom Brady and all that helped, but even if it didn't, the product spoke for itself. And
Absolutely.
if you were moving to Tampa during that time from a real market,
Yes.
I would submit that half the people, a third of the people, okay, I don't want to be overzealous.
Sure.
A third of the people that were urbanites moving from real markets that moved to Tampa would end up in Water Street for the first year or two.
And if not, that's what sold them. Like, oh, this
And
market
and
gets it.
here's where I'd say it's brilliant, and this is where Gasworks is going to crush it. I think these projects are so impactful. People that are thinking about moving decide, I'm going to go to Tampa instead of Miami
Yeah.
because Gasworks is really cool.
Yeah.
Like to be able to walk there and, oh, by the way, like the value I'm getting at that price point relative to that price point, and I get that walkability and the culture is huge for what it can do for a city. I think that's the point of your whole podcast and this discussion.
The team behind Gasworks seems to be doing the same thing too, right? Like they are putting in extra money into the design, into the facade, the park, the streetscape, the new trolley stop, right? It's like, by the way, do you say trolley or streetcar?
Great question.
Because I've been corrected. It's the streetcar.
Streetcar is the historically
David, what is
relevant.
it? What do you call it? Okay, David. See, David lives in the district, so he might.
I use trolley as well, but I'm not saying that's
Trolley's like the
accurate
San
thing.
Francisco thing.
Yeah, I
think.
picked this probably up and just kind of stuck. What's
I use tramvai. Tramvai is a Ukrainian for trolley.
So David, ask the robot. What's AI, ChatGPT, and what does that say? What they call that 50, 70, 100 years ago?
Tampa streetcar line, right? I think it was streetcar.
Streetcar. That's the point that I'm making.
We probably should say streetcar. I
all
just say
butchering it.
trolley. I think because when it was put in Tampa, it was this like novelty thing, like cutesy kind of thing. Trolley is a cuter word, right? Rather than streetcar. I think that's,
streetcar is a little grittier.
I guess. Tico line
Trolley's
streetcar.
cuter.
While some locals or visitors might casually refer to them as trolleys because of their historic old-fashioned appearance, they are technically electric streetcars that run on fixed rail tracks, not rubber-tired trolleys.
Ooh.
Okay, so the rubber tire
That's
is
the distinction.
That's the factor. Got it. Well, now we know.
I feel like when Channel District dropped Channel Side in and had the Hooters is around the time the word trolley cemented itself, because that's when people started using the streetcar. I think a lot.
Yeah.
Now as an urbanite that lives in Ybor and Channel District, I'm so impressed. I get on Saturdays and there's barely room. I have to stand.
No,
I'm
it's
in New York
crazy.
and
Yeah.
that. They also don't let you bring on. They used to be able to walk on with beers. And they stopped that.
You can't walk on with a Bud Light, but Bud Light's.
Literally, I wanted to say
No,
that.
I'm done.
You can't go
I
get in
can't
trouble.
keep going down
You
that
can't
road.
keep going.
Let me ask you
But like
one.
truly, those
Seltzer?
seltzers are affectionately allowed on with young ladies. I noticed that.
What's the new one, David? Are you a drinker?
I'm not. No.
Okay, never mind. Don't start. Never mind. Bad question. Those are popular though. They go down smooth. That's the only thing I'll say.
Are they going to pay you to say on the show?
Let's
10
wrap
years?
up with yeah, hopefully. Let's wrap
Bless
up
America.
let's wrap this up, and let me ask you one more thing. So I want to bring it back to something I said about some of that infill and smaller developers. You as a young man in the district 20 years ago, making whatever funny money deals you were making. It's like the world has shifted so much. Construction is so expensive. Land is very expensive. Like it's kind of hard to make a ground up deal work. I wanted to ask you, are you targeting yourself and your business any ground up development deals in the district? I know they might work, for some of these build to suit out, whatever, but specifically in the district. And then first question, second question, how can younger people be a part of this? Where do you suggest they start? Do they buy the little fixer upper? You mentioned $300,000, $400,000 bungalow. Where do young people start in real estate, specifically in the district?
The ground up has been tricky for some time because what you're really looking at is the total development cost relative to the future earnings and can you cover your debt? And so with interest rates having gone from 3.5 to 4 to 6 to 7 to 8 for construction loans, that plus the new higher inflated costs, where rent grew, but it didn't grow. Like rent grew a lot for some years, but it didn't double like construction cost did, right? Earlier we were talking about rents and Water Street going 35.4 to 5, but they didn't double. So right now, vertical is skinny development budgets. Some of the stuff that you're seeing is very long range, thoughtful, I'm going to say passionate, generational wealth in some regards. And, I'll give credit to to some of the stuff going on in Ybor, the Gasworks with Ybor. Like, that's long range thinking. Some projects you look at, like an apartment in, off of a major intersection, 20 minutes out of town, it's got 300 units. That is a 5-year, 10-year at most. Build it, refinance it, make money, move on type of investment, which is different than 3-generation wealth building. And it's important because that kind of money is going to make better decisions in the finishes they use and the experience they give. In the long-term nature, that extra money spent on the Paseo, on Fourth, kind of running between the marketplace and the E3, like those types of decisions come with long-range thinking versus 5-year money. So personally, and to that point, I guess it's a really interesting segue. Half the work that I do now is new build-to-suit or for-profit development of converting land over. The other half of it is this kind of historic or adaptive reuse projects, like the bricks, for example, which is stabilizing existing buildings, making it better, positioning them for the long run, which is a much longer return period. And it's more work. Some can argue it's more risk. I could argue it's a really core asset. But people comment online like, you overpaid for the building sort of thing. Well, you only pay for the building if you have a liquidity crisis and you can't carry it through to the long run and you mismanage the project and funds. So I don't know if that answers your question about new development versus on the flip side of your building, building a hospital for TGH and they're going to give you a long-term lease. You're gonna model that out to where it pencils.
I think, frankly, that answer highlights the importance of good stewards. We mentioned Jeff Vennick. We mentioned Daryl Shaw. I think Daryl Shaw is a good steward of the vision of what, a lot of us share about the district because it wouldn't make sense out of a strictly financial lens to do it. You have to have a passion and a love for what the district represents in order to build it, frankly, just period. I mean, there's no other way it makes sense. You have to want to do it. And you have to care.
You have to care. As a young entrepreneur that's kind of grown from nothing to just bless America, working my way up, I pay a lot of attention to what the leaders and winners of our neighborhoods, our projects, our country at the national level have done. And if you're going to take that example with Vennick and Shaw, few correlations that I'd noticed a long time ago. They both had built very successful previous businesses, billion-dollar enterprises. They no longer needed it, if you will. They now are in a category of just such a high level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs of giving back to society, creating generational wealth, having an impact. Even with me, like I joke, the dollars put into the bricks and investing in that business while the sales are down a lot and believing it's going to come back up. I want to feel like I did something good for the community, and I want it to be around 10, 20 years more when I'm done and hand it off to somebody else. Well, like those guys are doing that on a massive level. And then the third bucket is right. They both are at the point where it was passion and they wanted to make an impact. And that's where it's kind of neat, like, capitalism, business, and free markets, where that intersects with philanthropy and doing the right thing is the difference between thoughtful development and I'm in and out in 5 years.
Yeah.
Kind of approach to life.
We're sort of lucky as a city to have stewards like that, including yourself.
Very lucky. Well, I appreciate that. I'm just trying to blaze a pattern that's following a brilliant pattern already, and getting behind that. And I've wanted to do it my entire life, but it takes, it takes a village,
And a
it takes
couple
a
decades.
village and a couple of decades. And then a lot of, there's a lot of other entrepreneurs that are crushing it. The site development guys, I know,
Yes,
they're near
right.
those townhouses. I mean, I could go on for days about institutions in Ybor, right? Which is really what you and I are supposed to be talking about. The gentleman Alan Kahana and the castle, like that nightlife spot, like people around the country talk
Yes.
about that.
Yeah.
Bernini, 20 years ago, I'd go to Bernini on 7th, and they had, I don't know, is that buy one, get one, or like a $2 martini on Friday night. I forget.
They still got deals
I think
on
there's still
martinis.
some deals, but my old business partners and I, David Bailey, a buddy of mine, we still work together, and Camille Renshaw, something. I remember going to Bernini's and getting those. And so like Tropicana and Columbia and maybe Saguna, like are the real institutions, meaning they've been around
Yes.
since back then. We wish we had more. Unfortunately, we don't. The thoughtfulness and the opportunity now is to preserve our newer institutions and be thoughtful with the new institutions that we're welcoming into the district.
And so how does a young person be a part of this real estate game? There's a lot of people that listen to the show. In fact, a lot of young people hit me up to your episode specifically. They're very inspired by you. I think the first or the second episode you came on, you went into detail about your early career, just some of the deals and the bets.
That was the first. Yeah, you asked me to come on to talk about
your
journey.
sort of origin story there. But I think I've been investing in real estate for this is my 11th year, and I've done flipping houses and a little rental portfolio, and I've worked with Section 8 housing, and now I'm investing in some commercial buildings around town. And I would love to find a piece of land and design an entire building, like something like Harry did at Sterling Cigar Lounge, which we talked about.
Yeah.
The market we're in, I don't know if we're going backwards. I don't know if we get back to a time where land is, I think Harry told me he paid like $230,000 for that lot back in 2018. That sounds right. Does that sound right to you?
It sounds right. 2018 is a different chapter in the overall economy and in Ybor, yeah.
And what's crazy is that was 8 years ago. 2018 was 8 years ago.
It's been a fast 8 years.
Yeah, really fast.
Go back to this the discussion about exponential growth.
It's all exponential. And but that's all to say, I think for me and for other young people that are either early on in their career or getting started in real estate, David's even interested. It's like, holy shit, where do you start? Any piece of land is very expensive. They're very hard to finance. Even if you go in with partners, for me specifically, being a very small piece of a deal erodes a little bit of my vision and creativity, and I would rather own my own building, even if it was a smaller, less expensive building where I have the control to be creative and all that. Yeah. The question is, how can young people be a part of this too without giving Josh Pardue 20 grand saved up? How can they be a principal of real estate development?
What a great question. The reason that I created it's JPRElearn.com and some of the stuff that I put out on YouTube about case studies about how to figure out how to do this stuff, or these little short pigs get fed, hogs get slaughtered, like a lesson, don't be greedy. Like we're all going down the same journey. When you're later in the journey and you look back, I remember asking the questions that you're asking right now. I couldn't help but notice when we started the pod, you have paint on 3 of his knuckles, David. He's got white paint. And it made me smile so much because I've enjoyed watching your journey. I remember you got your first commercial project and you'd started this, and just watching, this explode with popularity, because it fills such an amazing need in media where people want real, authentic discussion versus media controlled messaging. But I saw the paint on your fingers earlier and I'm laughing because you have a media enterprise now. You have some properties. You're doing that. And I remember when I had paint on my fingers and I'd be in the office in like Collier's or something like that as a young guy, like, oh, I need to clean this off because I'm going into a meeting with other executives and banks and stuff. And I don't want the, no. In reality, it's, no. Yeah, on the weekend, I was up until 10 o'clock, Friday, Saturday, Sunday night, painting this house. And I eventually went from hiding it to like telling the story. Like, really? Like, yeah. And I got a 20% cash on cash. You know what that means? That means, you know, you want the cash on cash less than the first time we met. It means we put up 40,000 and it made, if it would have made 10%, that'd be 4,000 a year, but it made 20%. Okay, that's 8,000 a year. So think about, and that's just because I painted it and add the track lights and do these little things. It doesn't, to answer your question, it doesn't matter how you get involved. Get involved, do it. The advice would be find a Josh Pardue or a Stevie Tiriaga and can you give them 20 or 50 grand? Get on an operating agreement. That's one way to do. On the other side, buy your houses. On the other side, you graduated up to a commercial building. And now we're talking about cluster and neighborhood investments, and that's the goal. Let's get 2 or 3 small, scrappy buildings. There's no right or wrong journey. The key is that you go down that, you try everything, you learn, you diversify. I really liked this concept, which was liquidity, relationships, and expertise. As you go along the journey, you're gathering all 3 of those in kind of like different buckets. And to do the things that you ultimately want to do, which you're actually already doing it, you just don't realize you're just a decade or 2 short. Or me looking at Shaw and just saying,
right,
man, like this guy's always been impressive and always had good vision. And like I remember when he made comments about I'm gonna start buying properties in Ybor, go from that to here. So when I picture myself later in the journey and the things that I want to do with more capital and more relationships and more expertise, it goes back to liquidity, relationships, expertise. As long as you're going down the path and you're building those 3 buckets in disproportionate amounts, you're doing good. Okay. The next thing, manifest. See where you want to go. It sounds, everyone reads these buzzwords and whatever not, but visualizing and manifesting and thinking about something super powerful. I don't know if it's not just me. Obviously, a lot of people have said this, but I've noticed that when I thought this is what I want to do, and I think about it long enough, your brain starts organizing stuff and you get in line and get in position. So I think to all the listeners thinking about having those different considerations, and then just going and doing it.
Yeah.
Don't get stuck thinking. You'll have some ideas, go execute it. MVP, minimum viable product. When I was in New York, an entrepreneur taught me this. When they started Facebook, they didn't wait till it's this perfect algorithmic masterpiece to say they couldn't have. It's a multi-billion, almost $1 trillion software system. They started with something that was clunky and they fixed it. Well, my portfolio started out with a couple of bad houses, and then we got the better houses, and then fix it. So, look, all of a sudden there's enough cash coming off those that you could do something else with. Oh, look, I remember getting the first commercial deals. Okay, so to answer your point, you made a joke when I told you, look, you put $50,000 in a deal. I remember the first time a developer let me put $50,000 in a deal. I told you one of the stories. Another one of the pieces was a piece of distressed land, and I put in the 50, but I also got an operating agreement. And I ran the deal, co-ran the deal, and created millions of dollars of value by selling off out parcel pieces to build-to-suit developers and keeping the land in the back. And that started with me putting 50 plus putting my name on it and working that thing and we bought land in the recession. People thought we were crazy buying land from banks in 10, 11, 12, 13. But I recognized the chart and I knew we were down and believed in America, believed in Florida, believed in growth. So the thing is just go out and do it.
Yeah.
Don't overthink it. It's not going to be perfect. You can recover. The only time you can't recover, don't sign on so much recourse debt. I never do one deal that's more than the rest of the portfolio or even half of it. So if I did make a wrong calculation, I'm going to figure out how to recover.
You can take a hit.
Take a hit. Protect. You have your family. You have your team. I take a lot of serious. I'm so proud of my team, and learning how to train and share the lessons and empower people from that, send the elevator down and teach people stuff is super cool. And that's what our business and entrepreneurship and a little bit of momentum allows us to do is to build those. And so, people can find me online. It's Josh Pardue at JPREdev.com. If you want to figure out how to get involved, I have our office with standing desks. I invite people in all the time. I know I've invited you guys in before. Just come in, plug in your computer, work, hang out, listen, get involved. intern. If you want to call it an internship in your resume, you can do that. I will send you to go knock on doors. To be clear, you're going to go bring back some restaurants or call on some people or do something cool. But that's all the whole village builds a family. And then the last concept I want to share about that journey is super important. I remember as growing and building, like buying these properties and doing some brokerage for ordinary income and kind of going on this entrepreneur path. I remember when I was in New York and we had a business that raised debt and equity for developments and sold the triple net leases at the end. It was good ordinary income. I was really happy with it. I was super proud of that business and the expansion, the partnership. It was a company called Pardue Advisory, went into Stan Johnson Company, which got absorbed by Northmark, but it was super entrepreneurial. But I had a buddy named Philip Solomon. He was, and I was, this is, 2012. I was a bit younger. He had 30, Who's 30 on Forbes. A buddy of mine. He worked at Blackstone. And all of a sudden I see him in this magazine. And I was like friends with him, but like I've met him through industry events. I think we talked about like sale leaseback or some kind of net lease niche that I knew. And he was looking because this young man's placing billions of dollars of capital at my age. So we would meet for coffees or sometimes we'd get a happy hour. And I'd literally be sitting there. He told me the story, the Cosmopolitan Hotel in Vegas. You guys know the Cosmo?
Yep.
It's gorgeous. It's one of the more prolific projects in all of Vegas. Well, he led the team that bought the debt from Deutsche Bank at $1.5 billion. At the time, it cost $4.5 billion to build the Cosmopolitan Hotel. Now, granted, with inflation today, I don't know, that's 15 or $20 billion. But like, the Cosmo was built 10, 15, 20 years ago. So we bought this debt in the recession. And so this is maybe 2014 now that I think about it, 15. I'm sitting with him in New York City at a coffee shop. And I'm like, that's such a cool deal story. So you led the team, this little group of guys at Blackstone that bought this debt from the bank and they're going to convert it. And now the Cosmo, it's probably worth 50 billion. And then, Vegas has tightened a little bit, but let's just say the guys did very well. You know what he says to me? It's the most humbling thing. But Josh, I work for Blackstone. You have your own companies and these building projects. You own your own buildings and you're buying these pieces of land and you're developing these things. And it's small stuff. He said, but you're forming your own LLCs. You're raising debt. You're raising equity. You're doing it as an American. And I was like, oh, that's really nice, Phil. At first I thought he was just like kind of being sweet, like kind of like whatever not. And then I realized he tripled down. He goes, no. When I'm done here, I want to start my own thing and then go do my own projects that I do by myself. And in that moment, I remember going from, it reminds me of the statement, the grass is always greener on the other side. As I'm sitting there like thinking, wow, this is institutional real estate and this is the highest level. I had another mentor at Morgan Stanley that brokered REITs. So like REITs, real estate investment trust, $1 to $5 to $10 billion of real estate, and they literally are brokering those entities. And I looked at this guy and I literally thought like, this is the epitome. That's the top of the mountain. And even he would say things like that, older investment banker at Morgan Stanley. And so like, anyways, I bring it back to realize like there's always going to be that grass is greener on the other side.
Yeah.
So figure out, what do you like? What do you care a lot about? What are you good at? Make that your North Star and then go do it. And do it with no regrets, by the way, because we get like 80 years. 80 years, and you're going to screw up a lot. You're going to learn. You're going to make mistakes along that. And then you're going to dust yourself off, go do it again a little bit better.
Well said. Thank you for all that. Yeah, that's great. Do what puts a fire under your ass,
It's
and
the only way to
find your
do it,
niche.
man.
That's what it took me freaking 10 years to find it. All these different types of things I've done in real estate. It's taken a long time to figure out what the market has responded to, and aligned that with what I actually like to do in real estate.
You love real estate. You like real estate. You love real estate. I mean, you have paint on 3 of your knuckles. But I noticed something bigger. It's interesting. You think about like genes and heredity and legacy. Like when you have the guest on, only some of them are real estate investors. You have all these different. You have the environmental, the logistics of that. your calling's bigger than real estate. Actually, it's making an impact on your city. Forgive me, I don't know you well enough to go out on that limb. And real estate is one of the vehicles to make an impact when you're building your own portfolio.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think I'm creative. I mean, I think I've even told you about like a little cafe concept I'd want to create.
You were going to launch it in the building,
Yeah.
But that's
weighing,
a risky,
risk. And I think that there's sometimes creative and ambitious entrepreneurs might get ahead of themselves. So that's me mitigating risk.
And I think I said that at the time. Like, you launching a cafe now is tricky. And I'll turn this around on myself and criticize myself as I bought a operating business.
I told you that on the phone about the bricks. I was like, dude, that's fucking badass, man. That's like something I was telling you about, and I really
that's what got us.
I respect that. That's so cool. You bought the building and are keeping the existing business and are sharpening that business, and
timing's everything.
Super freaking cool, man.
Timing's everything, and then you have businesses like that coming a couple blocks away.
All exciting. We'll wrap it up here, man. I appreciate you coming on. So is this the new website?
Yeah, this is the plug.
Thebricksybor.com.
Yeah.
And then plug, you said you had a training website. That was the first time I've heard that.
Yeah.
Can we plug that again?
It's just really early thinking. I created JPRE Learn with a team. And it's just the idea that, send the elevator down.
Cool.
Giving away education. And the thing about the internet, when you study it, you look at these people, you give it all away for free. It's not, the design isn't to make money on it, and just put it out there in the world and seeing what comes back. So that's what JPRE Learn is, and who knows where it'll go. But that was kind of the third pillar of the business, and that there's development investment, and then there's advisory for scenarios where the project is larger than we have the ability to run, and then there's Learn, which is the early phases of philanthropy, where like when I run for office, I want to create tax credit for families that send their kids overseas, because I believe that if you're between the years of 16 and 24 and your family sends you overseas for more than 30 days, it can't be Cancun, right? Like, it's not going to get drunk
Disney cruise.
It needs to be like, it can't be a Disney cruise, but you learn, you come back. And I picked that up by study abroads and traveling when I was younger, and I still think it's very important to get out and see the rest of the world, because you learn things about what America's doing right and wrong, and you get different perspective. And so that's kind of the end goal of JPRE Learn, is having something as impactful as legislation and getting into office. In the short term, I get a lot of people that reach out that have really cool questions, and I like helping and putting that up there.
Hit them up, people. How can people contact you if they want to message you or get a hold of you?
With a robust team, there's a lot. It's on all the social media channels, or the contact. You can go on.
Is that your cell phone?
Most people go through there.
That's not your cell phone.
A gentleman never tells on a podcast. So on the bricks, hey, as you're still an entrepreneur, you're not managing everything properly. So on the bricks, though, just plug in that for a second is how proud we are to be involved. I've had a lot of different neighbors in Ybor. Some people that have known me in the district for 20 years, they've come up and just been ecstatic about keeping it around and me getting involved and taking over from the gentleman that ran it for a long time. Oh, here's the live music plug, which is super huge. If you're into live music, I mean, I think it's the next chapter of this building's property. It's a really cool courtyard. I've had other people, Garrett, in Ybor come up to me that haven't known me individually, and they'd say, like, oh, new capital comes to Ybor, and nice sport jacket or something, something like that. And it's funny, as I'd literally start talking to these people, and I'd say, hey, can I get you a beer? And, like, oh, you have a beer? Yeah. Start talking them up. Like, yeah, you might not know that. As soon as I was in business, I was in Ybor 20 years ago, and I cared a lot about it. And this isn't. I'm not an out of town, not an out of town ABC coming in. A lot of my team, at least on the deal team, Claire and Cooper, they live in Ybor. They work in Ybor. They're the ones that's doing the heavy lifting and getting that half a dozen little deals, these deals done that are making an impact. It takes vision, capital, and execution. And so Yeah. Anyways, but super proud to have the honor, I'm going to say, to own this building and to help bring the bricks into the next chapter by doing it the right way, building the hospitality, making the food better, opening the hours, good people, good training, doing some online promotions, and really just bringing the events and engagement back.
Dinner, drinks, and the best vibe. You said you're going to start to do lunch and daytime service, right?
Much needed. It's actually already going on.
It's already going on.
The hours are expanding so quickly that I don't even know if we have it on the website. I think on the social media, on the Instagram, we might have launched recently.
Cool.
But it's going to launch in the last couple of weeks, and it's going to go. So right now we're doing renovations as we go. As I mentioned, the roof right now is currently starting, and then the HVAC is going to go on top. You dry the building in, then you'll have your infrastructure. Then we're going to update the glass, like take all that wood's rotting. So we're going to redo the storefront, but through Barrio and the approvals, seal in the brick, and then the inside we're going to keep the same vibe. Just a little bit of elevation, but honoring the same indie culture, the skaters and the live music.
Love it, man. So important.
Sweet. Yeah.
Well, hey, thanks again for coming on the show. As always, it is a pleasure to talk to you. Appreciate your advice and wisdom, and I love everything you're doing in Ybor. But the bricks, man, this is super cool. We got to get lunch and check it out together.
Thank you, Garrett. Hope to do many more of these, and look forward to doing one with you soon.
We'll keep them rolling. All right. Thanks, everyone. See y'all.